FNCS in 2025 is here, and with it comes a switch from duos to trios for competitive play. Let's take a look at a few teams that you need to be on the lookout for in both EU and NA Central. The first team, and the team that's certainly been first in a lot of events this season, is Veno, Vico, and Flixi. Since coming together in duos for Major 3 last year, Vico and Flixi have performed exceptionally well, winning that major and placing 4th at Globals. Now with the addition of one of EU's finest players in Veno, this trio have been unstoppable, with 2 first-place finishes in weekly finals this season and not placing outside of 4th. With this terrific trio now situated at one of the best drop spots on the map, Flooded Frogs, and with them being the most consistent team in Europe, it's easy to see why they're the favourites to win it all this season. FNCS veterans Tayson and Trulex have tried out a couple of options for trio mates this season, however have eventually settled on Trulex's good friend, Chicho. Since coming together, this trio from the Balkans have placed 6th and 5th in weekly finals and look very strong, as their drop spot of Foxy Floodgate give them perfect access to the center of the map, allowing this team to base up for Storm Surge tags, like we know Trulex's teams have always loved to do. Widely regarded as the GOAT of Fortnite, Tayson will be looking to rekindle some of that success that he had in trios previously, as the back end of the Duos era won't be one that he'll be looking back on too fondly. But you can never count out a player of his caliber, and with the way that this trio are playing and the experience of all 3, they have to be considered one of the finest in the region this season. The iconic invitational winners Cami and Seti have picked up fellow Polish player Chari for this season. Although Chari hasn't had the same success as Cami and Seti over the years, he's been consistently making grand finals, most notably with Giras, so it's clear to see why he's joined the team. This season has been incredibly solid for the trio, with 3 top 3 finishes in weekly finals, including 1 first place. The main competition for them so far has been the French trio of Akira, X-Squeeze, and Podesai, fighting off Spawn at Lost Lake. While currently it seems like the Polish boys have been dominating pretty much entirely, historically, Cami and Seti haven't performed as well whenever they're contested in grand finals. Let's see if the shift in game mode and the addition of Chari is the key to changing that going into the first major of 2025. Now let's hop across the pond to NA, and one player that's quite literally done just that is Vidil, now playing with Cooper and Sphinx. At the beginning of the season, Vidil struggled to find a team, so decided to go to NA to find more success. Although Cooper and Sphinx have had some solid performances with Noxy, they also decided to switch it up. This decision seems to have paid dividends so far, as since coming together they placed 2nd, 5th, and 2nd again in the weekly finals. And the synergy between Cooper and Vidil when it comes to fragging has been excellent to watch so far. As for Sphinx, although he's had less overall success than Vidil and Cooper, he is proving to be an excellent IGL and helping to keep this team on track for success. Look out for these guys at Masked Meadows this season. After the most dominant year in competitive Fortnite history with Poyo, Peter Bot is back and picking up exactly where he left off with new teammates Cold and Ritual. Since getting together this season, they've won every single weekly final, more often than not with a 100-point margin, and are widely regarded as the best team in NA at the moment. The way that they're doing this is similar to how Peterbot operated before, landing at the best drop spot on the map and dominating from there on out, with high eliminations propelling them through the match. Currently, much like Veno's trio, they feel that Flooded Frogs is the best drop spot, with its incredible loot, materials, and early surge opportunities. However, with this team still winning earlier weeks, landing at brutal boxcars, it shows that this team have the skill, experience, and versatility to take it all home. Finally, onto what is likely to be a fan-favorite team this season, Clix, Batman Booga, and Iomzo. This is a team that'll have a lot of eyes on them to perform, as Clix always does, and he in particular will be looking to break that 4th place curse, take home his first FNCS title, and fulfill his potential. Batman Booga will be looking to pick up where he left off in duos after a breakthrough year with Rapid, and Iomzo will be looking to bring the firepower that we know he can, but hadn't quite seen to the fullest during Chapter 5. As for performances so far, it's looking good for this trio, as since coming together for Week 5, they managed a 2nd place in Opens and a 5th in the weekly finals. This, combined with their solid drop spot of Lost Lake, make this trio an exciting prospect, and one that fans will be watching closely. Let's hope they can bring the heat in grand finals. With so many teams to look out for, it's impossible for us to fit them all into one video. So let us know down below which teams you're excited about going into this season's FNCS. And we'll see you very soon for the start of Major 1.
Hello and welcome to FNCS. It's Chapter 6, Season 1, and we are back, baby. It's Major 1, and joining me, Frankie Ward, on the desk are Levin, 2K, and Mini Miner. So let's bring them in now. Omni-masking in. Hello, Levin. You actually did do a little bit of an Omni-mask then. How was the teleportation for you? Feeling fresh?
Smooth. I think, I still need a couple minutes to adjust, but I'll be all right. We got some time.
And Mini Miner, you're more of a Typhoon Blade man.
Yeah, I am. I like to keep on the ground, keep traditional in my rotation, but it feels good to be back doing the shows again, man. It feels good to have Fortnite back.
And you know what's interesting to me is the past couple of years of FNCS, it's been all about duos. This is going to be my personal first season covering trios. We're still a desk trio, and yet you still haven't played with me yet. But we've got no time to discuss why that is and for me to be humiliated on the broadcast, because we actually want to hear from some of our pro players on their thoughts about the biggest changes now we've headed back to trios.
I think the most significant change I've seen going from duos to trios is, how much longer people can survive without materials. Because people really love spraying a lot more, and there's a lot more refreshes, but there's not as much materials being spread out. So people just love to use their armor. I've never noticed it so much. People love that spray, and it's less shotgun oriented now and more playing as a team and spraying.
I think the most significant change from duos to trios is that it's way easier to be consistent in trios, I feel like. So where in duos you used to have a lot of upcoming teams competing, I feel like in trios it's 5 very strong teams that you have to compete against every time.
The most competitive change from duos to trios is, I think, definitely just I think the skill gap is way bigger in trio. So if you're a good trio, you'll do good compared to a duo. You can be a good duo and not do as well, but if you're a good trio, you just do well in every tournament.
There we go. Well, Trippin, I love the fact that he's if you're an established trio, you're going to do well every tournament. And Trippin has made it through to Major 1 with his partners, Fredoxy and Thomas, in 99th place. What's the significance of coming 99th, Mini Miner?
Well, they're actually now in group number 3, so we don't get to see those guys today. But yeah, quite ironic how he says that. But they all make very good points there, right? About how trios, you're going to have a little bit more materials, of course, an extra person's worth of loot to get to that end game. You're going to have an extra person's worth of heals as well, Levin. So almost it makes it a little bit easier to get further into the game. But everyone else is also a trio, right? You're not the only trio. Not everyone else is duos.
Right. It's funny hearing them say that. My good friend Sundown, right, used to be on the show. He used to always say Fortnite's a resource management game, right? It's all about who can get to end game, the most stacked. And so when you have that extra person, I feel like it probably does feel like you can add a bit of extra consistency to your game. So there's no, surprises as to why they're all saying that.
Do you think that the challenges of Surge are going to be something that particularly puts the newer trios to the test this season, 11?
I think there's an element of that, right? But Surge has been difficult every season for the past couple years now, right? So you sort of have to figure things out. Duos, trios, teams will get the damage however they need to.
And then the other factor with these trios is the fact that there's not just 2 of them communicating amongst each other. There's going to be a third voice in the mix. So let's hear again from our players.
The team chemistry and communication, it was always just about playing a lot together and maybe talking outside the tournaments, just talking as friends and just talking about how your communication was in the tournament and just overall just playing a lot together and just figuring everything out.
I mean, I feel like trios was always my upper hand rather than duos. But with my trios, with Immersive, we haven't been playing for that long, so right now we've just built chemistry by having good vibes, enjoying playing together, and just having fun.
How I developed my chemistry with my team, over the last month I've been playing with them is, it's a bit harder because they're fluent German, so it takes time to get adjusted to things. And for example, when I'm dead and they're duo clutching, they'll just speak German, so it's a bit hard to communicate with them at times like that. But it's nice that we have a coach who can chime in, who's also German, who can tell me what they're saying and give me help me understand things a bit more. But it's been about mostly keeping it fun and lighthearted, because sometimes you have to remember you are playing with, you know, people who are younger than you. I'm 20 now, but I'm a bit more experienced, and that's the harder side, keeping it fun, because I see this as, you know, a career, and they're not seeing that at that level yet.
I love that Venno is just like, okay, yeah, it is business, but I've also got to remember to keep it fun for my trio, because I'm old now. I'm 20. I've got to be responsible, Levin.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's funny hearing Venno say that, because I know he's had some struggles in his trios at times, trying to be almost that babysitter. But you know, you got to do what you got to do, really.
Yeah, and he makes a great point there as well about communication and language barriers. I feel like it's often so overlooked with people that watch competitive Fortnite. We don't get to necessarily hear the comms too often. So it's like, particularly in Venno's case, of course, he was speaking about the teammates, of course, being German, speaking German. There are other trios that have had that as well. Sky and Scroll, of course, would have spoke Danish when they play with Restguard. Now they're playing with iDrop. They have to switch to English, I'd imagine. So that is such an important element of Fortnite that just often gets so overlooked.
And
no,
yet,
it's
oh no, go on,
underrated.
Levin.
Yeah. No, it's super underrated, right? I feel like when people don't realize it, just because again, a lot of these guys maybe can speak in English as their second language and do it well. But when you look at the history of FNCS winners, right, the overwhelming majority are people who are able to speak in their native language. And when you look at the people who beat that trend, right, the likes of the Queasies, the Taysons, the Vennos, what's the trend amongst them? It's literally like the best players ever, right, to reach the mountaintop while not speaking in their like first language, or not Venno actually, but you get what I'm trying to say. So it's not easy to do. It's super, you know, important to have good communication.
It really is, and yet somehow I've ended up managing to get this job despite the fact that my communication sorely lacking at times. But you know what? We have two casters who never are lost for words. Returning to Europe, best region, it is the best Taco and Takata.
Thanks so much, Frankie. But hey, give yourself a pat on the back as well. I mean, the desk would not be the same without you there. I'm sure Levin and Mini Miner could agree. But Takata, me being back in EU, home sweet home, it is not the only change that we have happening for this chapter, because in comparison to Chapter 5, we're seeing the shakeup now. It's no longer focused around series points for the format. Instead, we're doing things a little differently.
Exactly. Let's actually take a look here. So instead of opens and semifinals, we now have the play-in stage and the group stage. Play-ins, 99 trios will qualify from into the group stage. And the main difference here is now they are 3 different set lobbies. To qualify from these set lobbies to the major finals, you either have to get top 5 on the leaderboard or take home one of those 5 potential victory royales. The remaining 3 trios will qualify from the last chance, and that will have our total 33 trios in the major finals. But Taco, major finals are a little different from last season.
Yeah, we're not going to see that 1.5 times point multiplier any longer on day 2. So both days, while always crucial, now you just means that you can't have that fallback option in case you're trying to make up for some lost time. But that's enough emphasis on the format. Right now, let's get back to focus on some trios at the desk.
Thank you so much, guys. So there you go. Consistency is going to be even more important than ever when it comes to our major finals. Let's, though, have some early predictions from our analysts, or rather, let's have some from Mini Miner, because Mini Miner, you put together your top 5 predictions for winning Victory Royales today across our 5 matches.
Yeah, that's right. I've decided to pick 5 teams that I think are going to be winning a game today. Historically, my predictions have always gone very well. So let's have a little look at what these are going to be, of course. Number 1 on the list, Levin, iDrop, Sky and Scroll. The best team so far in terms of the play-ins. They won that week. They had 4 wins in the play-ins as well. They only played 16 games, so a quarter of the games they actually managed to win. I think this is a no-brainer for a Victory Royale today.
It's good to see you still sticking with iDrop after all these years of him letting you down in predictions. Look, it's a no-brainer. I think many people look at this group and they instantly look at iDrop and Sky and Scroll, and with the form they've been on, you know, they won the play-in, right? So this is clearly the team most in form here in the EU. I think they're likely to win a game. And the beauty of them is they win games in so many different ways, right? Of course, this season, high ground has been like one of the most obvious ways to win games. We're seeing teams play height from early, and this is an example of a game where they do it so well. The zone pulls towards the island. They play for the island one, so they're going to obviously have that invis coin and a bunch of other, you know, loot and whatnot. But then they can TP, use the Oni TP to get into a good spot where they can build up for height, invest a lot of materials. Scroll getting a bit PC with his scroll will buy, and still have no idea how he does that. But ultimately, right, it's all about, you know, investing your mats in these early positions, making sure you're aware of the different zone pools, so if it does pull away from you, you can TP into a good spot to stop other teams from taking it. And they just do it so well this season.
Yeah, I mean, that's highlighted right there on that screen. You could sort of see exactly where they're positioned. They were looking out for each other, making sure that teams can't just triple TP up onto height, which is a real danger this season. So playing height is certainly a bit of an art this season, and having that chemistry that this trio have is absolutely vital. And that's why they're the team that had the second most victory royales when it comes to the play-ins, because they just have all of these different facets, all these different strings to their bow. And one of the other strings, of course, that they have is the low ground, the way that they're able to play when things don't necessarily go their way with the island, when they can't build up and get that high ground early on. They use their fragging abilities to their advantage on low ground and really pick up so many eliminations and therefore so many refreshes as well.
Yeah, look, this game was, I think, is a great example of how they use it, right? You can see them there making sure to claim space on the opening side of the zone, waiting for these players to drop down. In this specific clip here, right, you see Sky tarping ahead, using the chug splashes that they had this season to claim that position, give them more time to fight and look for refreshes. They're making sure to use those sentinel pump shotguns and the incredible amounts of structure damage that it deals to be able to secure refreshes as well. And again, just making sure they're just using everything available to them in this season as efficiently as possible to win from high or low ground.
Well, you've convinced me, Mini Miner. I'm pretty sure that these guys are going to be taking a victory royale today. But what about the other four names on the list? So Teeny, Skibbery and Haris, that's an interesting trio. It wasn't necessarily a trio I expected to see competing, I guess, at the start of Chapter 6. Why have you put them on the list?
Well, I mean, if you look at them on paper, you think this is a fantastic trio. They're going to absolutely dominate and do incredibly well. And I still think they will do that, hence why they're on my list. But so far, not so good for this trio. They've actually only made one out of the 3 possible weekly finals that they could have made. In that actual weekly final, they placed 31st, which is not ideal at all. But the reason why I think they can win and they should win today is the fact they just full send high every single game, Levin. They are a team that can do that. They have it in their locker, and they're actually the team in the lobby with the most wins in all of the finals that they've had, whether it be divisional finals or, of course, those eval finals as well. So they have it in their locker. I don't think it's going to be consistent from their 11, but I think they will win.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair pick. I think a lot of people would agree with you on that one. I like you also taking Vanya, right? Vanya, Pixie, and Marius are a team that have looked very good in the little we've seen from them. Of course, it's been a weird journey for them, right? Because they sort of started with Marius, dropped Marius for Chap, played worse with Chap, then picked up Marius, started playing good again. You know, were contested in the final and still came second. Like they've had a bit of a rocky journey here, but ultimately in this lobby, I think a lot of people expect them to do well. If you actually look at the stats when it comes to this type of format, where it's like a win and you're in, reboot round style, Vanya has some of the highest win rates of anyone all over the world. So this guy is primed when it comes to winning in these type of games.
Well, I'm hoping to see him challenging for height later on today. I would love to see Mini Miner's predictions, though, for the top 5 teams that aren't going to win a victory royale today, but will be incredibly consistent in terms of getting to those end games and picking up the points. So who have you got for us, Mini Miner?
Yeah, this is a little bit more difficult to choose because, of course, anything can happen when it comes to consistency. Any zones could play in teams' favor or otherwise. But one team that I think is a shoo-in to qualify today through consistency is Trulex, Tayson, and Cheat Show. This is a team that have so much power when it comes to their experience. I think what they lack in that sort of fragging ability, they just make up for in their brains. They're landing at Foxy center of the map, surge bases that we know that Trulex and Chicho are known for, and actually picking up Chicho, I think, has just bolstered this trio even more, Levin. But I just don't think they've been a winning trio so far. They only managed 1 out of the 20 games that they played in the play-ins, and I think with their position on the map, they're absolutely guaranteed to make it into that end game and qualify through consistency.
I think that's fair. They aren't a team that's winning a bunch of games. I would say, you know, if most people had iDrop, Sky, and Scroll as the best team in this lobby, I'd probably say these guys are the second best, right? They've looked really strong together. The only reason I'd maybe disagree with you and say I could see them winning a game is just the fact that, like, the lobby quality. I think, like, when you look at the overall lobby and the level of player in here, I think they are just so high up there that eventually they're going to make it to enough of these end game stacks that they find that right win condition and pick up a win. Either way, though, they're going to qualify. I'm confident of that today.
When I look at these names, though, especially when I look at Trulux and Chicho, I think that they're really land-proven players, right? I would expect them to get a victory royale if they were all competing on the stage. Do you think that that's something that really hypes them up? Are they not as strong or competitive when they're online, Levin?
I don't know if maybe we can draw that conclusion, but you know, I think you're spot on in saying, especially in Trulux's case, right? He's one of the best LAN players of all time when you look at his track record. So I don't think online will phase him too much. I think he just wants to get the job done.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how all of our teams get the job done, and I can't wait to hear our newest commentating duo in Europe casting their voices over the action. So, boys, without further ado, let's get game one underway with Takata and the best Taco.
Thank you so much, Frankie. You know, first of all, congratulations, Taco. You're back on the best region, EU. How does it feel to be back?
It feels great. I think it is hilarious, though, the way that everybody just has to put the emphasis on the best. You know, I don't want to get full betrayal just yet, the NA like that. But no, I'm definitely excited that Takata. I mean, we're seeing group stage #1 kick off here today.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. We already had the play-ins. The battle bus is already ready, so let's kick off group 1.
And look, Takata, it's been building for a while now. Every single one of our teams competing here today, not willing to risk leaving it up to that last chance qualifier.
Oh yeah, if you took a look at the drop map, we do have some interesting contestations coming through, but we are going to be starting it off at Twinkle Terrace with Marine here. Just one other trio contesting them.
And a part of the play for Marine, Dirty, Ziffy, they're going to have to keep an eye out. Seems like Sakura Stadium is still going to be something left up for grabs later on, a little bit further west if they want to try and pick up more on their medal, but bit of a stalemate so far. Neither side really willing to push the other just yet.
Right. In these situations at various different POIs, you know, you have times where there's a far superior side that both trios might just try and potentially 50-50. But when you're in these set lobbies, sometimes you might just want to stick to your roots. You have your loot path already set up. You have your kind of strategy to try and come out on top in this early game. So we'll see if the aggression comes through. But from what I'm seeing now is Haijo is not in a good position.
Defending for his life currently, considering Trexer Robin, though, could potentially be revived here, but Haijo, he's not going to get the space, losing a lot of hard mats, basically what he has left here, but he's trying to commit to this revive. Now finding the walls just continue to be aggressed on by Frix, but Frix refusing to let this revive happen onto Robin, and finally he breaks through. Frix will find that final elimination. Trio successfully eliminated, but it doesn't look like Frix has been left in the greatest situation either. Solo, he'll be able to play for the reboot, but that's bound to draw attention from elsewhere.
Yeah, so far I didn't see anybody close by. This is going to be big. That is where Night Rose is at, so they will hopefully be able to finish that up, clean it up, but we are going to move towards iDrop's trio here, which are looking incredibly peaceful. No danger in their surroundings so far. But if we look here, the Spanish trio, Kramsu, Clone, Case, all fully up here, looking healthy at the seaport. But this couldn't last too long.
And Case having a bit of fun on socials at the expense of Splash's trio. A little bit of a drop situation that could be the real thorn of the side for Mirus, Shrift, Splash, but what matters is their fighting capability. And right now, completely smothered to the low ground, it's going to be difficult for them to actually find an opening since they're playing for that lack of elevation.
Ryan seems to have gone down here, is going to be fully eliminated. But this engagement is just getting started as the Oni mask is going to be used to take high ground. Now shots from above trying to pinch out the player, single him out. Do what you can to clean this up, as they will be able to secure the knock. Quick elimination onto Ziffy. Not a single teammate has gone down. It's all about efficiency in this early game. You want to be able to clean up these fights as quickly as possible so you can continue on your loot path if you haven't finished looting, or if not, get ready for that surge path. They are going to use a water sprite though to heal right back up, and I'm not even sure if they're gonna hunt down that last player or just maybe get a bit more centered as the game continues.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking about efficiency as far as loot paths are concerned and capitalizing on these quick fights, but that was the problem for Marine's trio. They weren't able to actually close out that exchange at Twinkle Terrace initially up against Syla and Nazik, so instead just pounced upon, and Gorditi, Scary Sean, Joanne, they just get that perfect prime opportunity to secure their surge early on by just third-partying. And that far on the outskirts, it's highly unlikely they're gonna have to worry about teams being able to rotate behind them now either, so they might even be able to just prioritize fishing at this time.
Yeah, it is a crucial part of this meta, trying to fish as much as you can for those shield fish, which then you can use to recuperate the shield you lose, getting those Storm Surge tags. We've seen also the Oni mask being used a lot throughout this season because you can kind of spread out a bit more than you'd normally be able to find tags from various angles as we look at a potential engagement forming here. Teeny, Scree, looking for an angle here. Does have that Typhoon Blade in hand to get a bit more elevation on their jump, but no shots are going to connect yet as they continue to look for an opening.
Just a Typhoon Blade versus Void Oni Mask classic. Teeny at least gonna try to see if he can make a play for the high ground, but Mystic being able to teleport up there, so much easier for him to just reconvene with the rest of his trio. Maxi, Prax, now also gonna look towards the high ground. 6 Chili Chug splashes, so they could get aggressive here if they wanted to. The question is whether or not they feel like they've got the fighting power to match that from Hatred and Teeny, because while Mini called it, they haven't necessarily had the most successful season so far here at Takata. They're still a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, it doesn't look like any engagement is going to come through. They had the pre-Oni mask set up in case they were going to get pushed, but it wasn't an aggressive Oni mask. It was more like a defensive one, just getting ready to combat the push that never ended up happening. So we'll see what for 9X Force and Rabana doing now, as it looks like they are incredibly healthy, loot-wise, shield-wise, material-wise, basically everything you need to just continue forwards and now start looking for a bit more damage.
Bound to have noticed the Surge base off in the distance, though, but what's really drawn them closer up is the shots fired. Gova, Seren, Kifa as well. Currently dealing with the French trio, Nosif, Nate, and Nazen, and this battle taking place here on the mountain range. It's going to be a lot easier for one of these teams to essentially spot out if they're getting pressured anytime soon here from a third-party circumstance. But Nazen, he's been a little bit too far split from the rest of his trio. He's getting 2v1 currently.
I hope Nazen has an Oni mask. I hope he has some sort of escape here, because especially in trios, if you're in a 3 versus 1, it's incredibly hard to get out of the situation. Triple sprays, triple shotguns, anything they possibly can to get some shots in the door. But they are going to have to clean up this fight if they want to continue moving forward. They're just giving more time for their opponents to get closer and closer and kind of support their teammate that was singled out. And it looks like they might have just taken too long, or they didn't want to take that risk.
It's honestly Tayson, Trulix, and Chicha that I'd be the most concerned with, because that mountain span from Foxy Floodgate has prime viewing towards this mountain range here, spanning over the base tunnel. And so Nosif, Nazen, they know they can't afford to stay out in the open for much longer, but that rotation might lead them straight into the hands of Teeny's trio, and they already had to expend quite a lot of mats for a fight that just fizzled out into a whole lot of nothing. Maybe they got some surge tags, but not sure if it was enough for it to really be capable for them to just focus on rotations.
Yeah, only time will tell. A lot of materials were used for that engagement, and not even sure if it was worth it, but I believe I saw some Oni masks being used to disengage here. They are inside of the storm, as second zone is going to come to a close here shortly. Nothing to be too worried about yet. You can see the 4 shield fish in the inventory, making use of that. But so far, I don't think we'll see anything too game-changing from this trio here as they just continue to disengage.
Have to keep eyes, though, on Shark, Ju, and C. Andy. Shark especially has just been so impressive. He's had pretty dominating Chapter 6 so far, Takada, even when it comes to like the solo Cash Cup performances, the eval finals, for example, and really excited to see how he continues to operate alongside the rest of his team.
Still 89 players up. Only 3 trios have gone down. It's almost looking like a major finals already, as we see a lot of trios on the edge of zone here. They're healthy, but no metal, basically. Could use more materials. As now, kind of the hunt for Surge, the hunt for damage is what Teeny's going to be looking for.
Why does it feel like every time we pan over Teeny, though, he's always crouch walking up onto someone? This guy is just the element of sneaky as can be. But Teeny, he might have caught a little bit more attention than what he bargained for. Immediately going to be forced back towards the bottom of his current boxes with the rest of his team. But they do have an ample amount of resources. It's just an early expense of their shield that they probably would have preferred to avoid. I mean, that's a big part of the reason why you're looking for those sneak up plays in the first place. You want to get the damage without compromising the rest of your utility in the process.
Yeah, this is one of the trios that, you know, I would expect to get a VR in this Group 1. They are actually the only trio in the lobby that has 2 set lobby VRs already this season, throughout the Eval Cups, throughout the divisional finals. So, I mean, I see them as strong competitors to take home even potentially this game number 1. As a quick reminder, it is going to be 5 matches that are played out. The ways to qualify are 1 through consistency, place top 5 on the leaderboard after those 5 matches conclude, or, you know, just get a victory royale. And that kind of opens up the opportunity of, hey, whoever gets this first victory royale, if they're uncontested going into next match, there might be an open drop spot. So we'll maybe see some changes as time goes on and these matches continue.
And, you know, Levin made a call earlier about, we're talking about, you know, lobby qualities, essentially. And I think for a lot of these teams, some of them being a little bit newer faces, essentially, to this set lobby kind of format, I think that that's where we can expect to see some of this hesitancy coming through Takada. A lot of teams not necessarily wanting to be some of the first elimed, but that means that that surge damage threshold is gonna start to be pretty heavy-handed against these teams. It really just depends on who's actually been able to stabilize themselves with their surge damage so far. Yeah,
I mean, 86 players still up, getting closer and closer to that 4th zone. This is a match. I'm excited. This is what I've been waiting for. Taco, the group stage is always something special. As we'll take a look once again. Well, I was gonna say Teeny's trio, but they're close by here. As we look at Kerwa's fan, which is Hedra, but, you know, I'm just gonna call him his fan for this game. Alongside Hyper. We'll see if they're able to continue with the dominance they've had from the early game. I don't want to make the caster curse a reality, though, as they do get cracked instantly from Teeny's trio. Yeah, big factor working against Kira's trio is the fact that they've had to go cross-country for this one, right? Essentially starting off at Whiffy Warp, now all the way over in Pump Power, and this zone just appears like it's going to keep pulling over this mountain span, keep pulling closer and closer to that water line that spans around the outskirts of like Shattered Span and the like, and it's not easy to play these water zones either, Takada, especially if you don't have that Void Oni mass to depend on, because teams are just having to utilize so much more resources than what they would like to. And even Teeny's trio, a little bit worse for wear as far as that material count is concerned. They need to take a fight and they have to win it out. Right, I mean, before you had the water boon, but that's no longer in competitive, so now you want to get that shield back. It's either Water Sprite, Shieldfish, or Minis, but as the aggression continues, Atris, Teeny, Skavi, making sure to poke from various angles. You don't want to all enter from the same wall if you're not looking for a triple spray or triple shotgun. You want to just find individual angles, try and cut off one of your opponents, do whatever you can to either get a crack or get a knock and give you that upper hand in this fight. 1 above and 2 below. It's Ego, who finds himself pincer currently between Teeny and Svi, trying to see if he can get some support metrics coming through from Kenti, but so far, no good here for Teeny. He needs to break through this floor, and Kenti finally going to give that support aspect for Ego. Now Hatris, one more time, trying to apply that separate angle pressure here, Takada, but
Again, the longer this draws out, the easier it is for somebody else to poach the goodness. And Atris finally gonna find himself on the receiving end here, though. But Teeny just Typhoon blading through, and it's gonna be success. Whether it looked a little bit crazier than what we would have anticipated, that's one pack of punch from the Typhoon Blade.
What an entrance. I was going to say, you know, we're in trios now. Pre-edits are going to be a lot more prevalent. They look like they have no materials. I was expecting maybe a pre-edit play to come through. Issue is when all the trio knows where you are, pre-edits are more kind of a sneaky strategy where you do it when your opponents aren't expecting it. So the Typhoon Blade right in looks like worked out for them this time. So are going to be able to get that refresh, continue on into the zone. It is 4th zone, so we will be able to see that Rift Island appear here shortly and maybe see some plays be made.
If there's one team that I would definitely anticipate to make a play for that Shogun's Arena, it's going to be Sky Scroll and iDrop. They have it more often than not than any other team I've seen, Takada, as far as endgames are concerned. And not only that, but when they're this far above in the surge damage threshold, as is 1,067 to be exact, they've got more than enough time to essentially secure which direction they want to head, even if that means heading for that Shogun Arena.
Let's take a look at a replay from Maxi here, as it looks like a quick free knockdown. And we take a look now at the Rift Island. Once again, we talked about it. It's going to be Hyper, Kerwa, and Hedra. As a reminder, if you're just tuning in here from last season, there is kind of a boss now on this Rift Island, which is Shogun X, that does drop a medallion, which will give you infinite stamina and invisibility while you're sprinting, alongside some extra loot and shield. So we will see trios kind of every now and then battling for that, as we take a look once again at Teeny, Skavi, and Atris, who have taken an elevated position, but they're not in zone yet, so it is a good time to kind of plan out their rotate with all the vision that they currently have.
And that last fight seems to currently be the saving grace right now for Teeny's trio, but they're not going to waste any time. They're going to keep trying to see if they can find those third-party search tag opportunities. Team fighting just below them. All the while, Trulex, Chicho, Tayson currently boxed up underneath Shattered Span Bridge. Tarky, though, in a little bit of a tough situation here. Pinched between the waterway and separate teams on both sides of these hill spans. It is looking like a very grim situation there. Tayson, Trulex, Chicho probably just waiting for an opportunity to move in closer, gather the goods after he gets eliminated.
This is interesting. Pixie, Vanya, Marius are 126 below. And I mean, seeing that Vanya is part of this trio, he has a 20% win rate in these reboot style matches. So you know that they're going to be playing for that victory royale. I mean, Vanya was the only player who qualified for all 3 EU FNCS 2024 major finals by winning a semifinals game, by winning a match in this type of format. So it's all or nothing for this trio. They need to get this damage. They have the loot they need to close it out. But if you get affected by Storm Surge, if you're unable to do enough damage, they're not going to be able to bring it to the end game, as shield fishes are getting used. Vanya goes down. Marius is already eliminated. Pixie is now left alone. A miracle is what he needs to get out of this situation, as another shield fish is going to be popped. The zone is going to be closing in as the pressure is on, and Pixie needs something crazy to happen.
And Pixie just needs to bail at this exchange. Pixie versus Pixovsky. There can only be one, essentially, and Pixovsky, Battercry, Vanchki, they're going to defend their position quite handedly there. It's surprising as well, because Marius, Vanya, there's a lot of fighting power in that trio, so for them to be in such a battered position, struggling to try and maintain that surge damage threshold, tells you that something went horribly wrong in that early mid-game.
Yeah, curious to see how it looks in the upcoming matches. Kind of see how they play it out, if they change anything or what maybe is going wrong. But so far, to focus on the moment. Hyper now 106 above. Not too comfortable. I mean, they are in the zone, which is a good position now to find tags, find options on all the other trios in the surrounding area. But it looks like Axe Force is going to be going close here. Rabon closing space, gets straight into the box, but he's going to be cracked as well. as now Raban has to take some time to heal up. No player has gone down yet.
Yeah, you just have to be so careful when you're actually choosing to just barrel into some of these boxes. Palm can be menacing, but for me, Takada, this is the team with the Shogun medallion. Hyper, Hedra, and Kira, they could look to play this much more aggressively than what they have been. And granted, it could just be they're trying to just size themselves up for a better position. Don't want to be playing it necessarily from the low ground, but infinite stamina and invis, that is just so much fighting power behind it. I would love to see them get more aggressive with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for finding those angles in kind of unexpected situations, but when you see the whole trio coming close, you do have to be careful, as it looks like iDrop's trio here did secure a quick refresh, good amount of damage. We are in 7th zone, so this is 5 damage per second out of the zone and 40 players for Surge to be active, so there's still 12 players that need to be eliminated, which means nobody's safe unless you're that trio up top, who was, I believe, almost 1,000 above Storm Surge, so.
Yeah, getting a chance even take a look back. We knew Pixie was practically full shambles when we last left off, and iDrop Sky and Scroll, they're going to waste absolutely zero time with picking off what was left of him. True Legs, Chicha, Tayson, though, a lot of these teams, I think this is where resource management becomes so pivotal, because it is very easy to lose track of how many mats you're actually expending over these water zones.
100%. 92 above for Tayson, True Legs, Chicho. I mean, Levin Mini, we're talking about this on the desk. Tayson's only picked up 1 victory royale in the play-in, so far this season as well, based on their play style, I think it's more likely that they do qualify through consistency instead of getting a victory royale. But anything's possible in this group stage, as right now the main focus is just getting more damage.
Seems like Tayson, True Legs, and Chicha have also caught wind of the fact that high ground not necessarily fully established just yet either, but I would definitely wager that iDrop Sky Scroll, as we approach that 8th, 9th zone, can look for a possible early high take. And right as I say that, X-Force, Robob, F9, they're going to be a team that's currently in the most likely position to try and hold on to this hype, but they've also got to make sure that they're suppressing all these other teams from encroaching upon their current layer.
So this one's interesting. 8th zone, you can see the zone is fully inside the storm. A lot of players here will sometimes kind of pre-fire their Oni masks to get themselves a position on the less congested side, but the issue is you don't want to miss out on those tags. The longer you stay in zone, the longer you watch all these trios rotate, the more openings you're going to have to get more damage. So if you're not healthy in damage, you have to give up a bit of that time where you could be rotating to look for those tags. But on the contrary, if you already have a lot of damage, it's all about that rotation. Try and be the first trio to get in zone. But Axe Force for 9, they're already down. They're already knocked, eliminated, as Raban now is forced to clutch it out as a solo.
Just didn't have as much material as they would have liked at that point. Probably hoping that they could have found the better end of the fight instead. They're the victims. So now Raban looking back, looking forward. He knows he is completely surrounded. He's just gonna hope to slip by unnoticed with a slightly later rotate, but does expose himself to being lobbied at that point. Cringe Mappy Gate on the other side, trying to see if they can get some elevated views, but Tayson, True Legs, Chicho, tried and true, working their way through the low ground currently. And they've got enough space, they've got enough mats, Takada, but what they want is more pressure into this congested side.
Good news is, there's trios here. They have a lot of firepower if they're able to find even a solo, a duo, that they can catch off guard here. All it takes, 1 triple shotgun, triple spray, even a triple pickaxe, just some sort of synergy here. But the good news is they already have so many materials, they don't have to risk anything really to look for these refreshes yet. It's more just continue staying ahead of zone, continue claiming space, and just, you know, staying up while all these other trios keep getting eliminated.
Cringe immediately gonna teleport front side of height, and this is so much hard material being expended currently by Cringe, Mappy, and Cade. You know that they want to control this elevated position. They're shooting down these Void Oni TPs as they're sliding through. They might even have a chance to connect here overhead, but Mappy, Cade, Cringe, all trying to do their best to monitor each other's angles. In fact, wager it's only a matter of time for Sky, Scroll, iDrop. They're finally getting looked at here. They're not going to have the opportunity to try and play things through from that secondary height.
Good news for Cade, Cringe, and Mappy here is due to the environment, so many big buildings, there's not as many openings for these trios to kind of look for that triple Oni mask onto height. So they are continuing to apply a lot of pressure. Sky, iDrop, and his trio here are just kind of looking to find damage on the trios down below, not yet looking above, as they're going to continue to drop down now, potentially claiming ahead of zone, blocking off the tarps from their opponents, even tanking a bit of Storm to do so, but that's exactly what you need.
Look, if you can't immediately look for a height take, you might as well drop to the low ground instead and look to control things from there, especially since the desk already broke down just how excellently Sky, iDrop, and Scroll are able to manage the low ground in these types of circumstances exactly. But Hatris gonna be the first to fall here. Teeny, Svi, they're just trying to break through all these pre-existing builds. The problem though, Teeny, he set it straight for this front side of the low ground, has no idea what awaits him. Now he's gonna catch a glimpse. iDrop, Sky, and Scroll. It's a full trio. Teeny forced to crouch it out, forced to play back. He can't continue to move forward like he hoped.
Especially as a solo, it's just not the right play there as Sky, iDrop are continuing to apply that pressure, finding Elim after Elim as they continue to tarp ahead, claim that space. iDrop doing an amazing job of trying to cut out his opponents here and capitalize on these situations.
iDrop, Sky, Scroll, they are just moving as one unit, but with the way that this zone is pulling slightly over the hill, Trulex, we see him getting caught for a moment there in the mid-ground, but Sky, Scroll, iDrop, they took out Kira's trio earlier on, but now it comes at a cost here. Scroll is going to be eliminated. Sky, though, still has control of that Shogun Medallion, but Trulex, what a pump! He's gonna manage to work his way through just a little bit longer here. It's just so tough at this point, Takata.
Be careful though, high ground retake coming through. Now Mappy is forced to tarp ahead, look back up, try and shoot them down as Cade continues getting that pressure applied onto him, building up and up and up. The last shield fish is used. He is gonna get knocked down. Mappy, Cringe now. Last two have to work together as a duo to try and chop down this high ground and do what they can. Issue is zero materials, nothing to work with.
Mappy was hoping to get a piece out of iDrop, but the teleportation is going to save him just in the nick of time. Still 7 TPs left here for Mappy as well, but with no mats Takata, he's just got to hope for a miracle, and he finds one. Cringe as well, taking down Relvis, and now all Cringe needs to do is try and keep filing through this bridge, filing through Seaport City, but it's just so much mayhem coming from the high ground, so much pressure, but the low ground's breaking down as well.
Goes down now. It's a height versus low. It looks like the low ground might just be able to finish this off as Moni takes down one, gets the knock, looks for the last one, but is it a 1 versus 1? It is! And the turnaround! 5 eliminations, closing it off from height. Taco, what did we even just witness?
We just witnessed a trio that nobody had on their list for being a Victory Royale specialist here. Gorditi, Scary Sean, and Joanne find themselves with the very first security. And I mean, at the same time, it's hard to monitor the high ground from that position. So much mayhem just taking place there, Takata. But the low ground, that's what it really came down to, was just these teams picking each other apart. They never saw it coming from height.
It was a perfect retake from high ground. Las Cabras de España, the Spanish trio coming from above to close it out and secure our first Victory Royale in Group 1, claiming that spot in the major finals. I'm lost for words, Taco, so I want to see what the desk has in mind.
Thank you very much, guys. So, Mini Miner, I don't think you had that trio on your list.
No, I didn't actually. So I've already lost the prediction. I thought I was really hopeful going into it, and it's already gone wrong. I was expecting Trulet's, Tayson, and Chicho to win the first game, if I'm totally honest, because I thought that was how it was going to go, but it didn't go that way.
Well, we'll talk more about that after the break, but let's focus on that Victory Royale, because we did see Joanne's trio challenge that hype from Cringe's trio, and it looked like they had to lose it. There was a crafty retake from Cringe's trio, but in the end, they were able to settle for the Victory Royale, Levin.
Well, yeah, I think when you look at how that game played out, again, it's something we didn't really touch too much on at the beginning of the day, but it's so important in these types of formats, right? In the win formats, we see it in the evals every week. When people are guaranteed success or progression or money through winning a game, they're gonna send it for height, right? Like, there's no element of let's play out our mats and see how it goes. No, you're gonna try and make the play that's gonna guarantee you the win, and most teams see that as height. Gorditi, Scary, and John at one point during those moving zones looked up on height and looked at Cringe, Mappy, and Cade and said, wait, this is barbecue chicken, we can take this. They're on wood, they have no mats, and it just sort of worked out perfectly for them. We saw how much mats Cade and them invested to secure height. They didn't have enough to keep it, unfortunately, and so for the Spanish boys, they were able to just go up there and close it out. Still rather chaotic, right? You see on the drop down mini, you know, I've resonated with the casters there. You almost didn't know what was going on, who was going to win the game, even after they made that play, but they hit the right shots and it, you know, secures them the victory.
Yeah, so good from those guys. I mean, it was all about that high ground hold attempt, I suppose, from Maffy and Cade and Cringe. They just didn't have enough materials, as you mentioned, and it was due to the lack of eliminations. They didn't get an elimination there in that endgame. They had one, I think, in the 11th zone, so just couldn't pick up any refreshes, which this season is just so important.
Sounds like it was a little bit too lonely at the top for Cringe's trio, but we'll be talking more about game number 1 in extra detail after this short break. Season 1. We are really excited to have got this season underway because that first game was utter chaos. Just getting used to the pace of trios, boys, and just all the action and all the new names that we're seeing in the lobby. And it feels like it was relatively new names that took that first victory royale, and they took it off some very established ones because Sky, Scroll, and iDrop, they were definitely having quite the game at 11, especially the mid game. The Surge was looking healthy. What do you think happened for these boys in the end, though?
Yeah, I think there was like a crucial sort of moment that sort of cost them the game, right? They were looking sort of good during those moving zones, right? We saw them sort of staying ahead during 10th zone, and you sort of look at them and go, okay, look, they're setting up well, but they were on the low ground, Mini.
Yeah.
And the problem for them is as we headed out of Seaport City, we started to move up elevation, and they just weren't quite ready for it, right? You see a moment here where sort of iDrop's at the front, he's like trying to fight someone on low ground, Sky and Score at the back, sort of like trying to look for a refresh as well, get their mats up. And Zone's just sort of pulling past this hill. It forces them to sort of go out into the zone and try and look for a TP back into zone. And in that process of TPing, it's just completely chaos, right? Completely scuffed. And two of them end up going down. It's left to iDrop. And yeah, as good as iDrop is, wasn't able to get the solo clutch.
Yeah, still not a bad game for these guys. They're 5th with 5 eliminations. Pretty solid. They're looking good for that consistency so far. And I think, as you mentioned there, I've got a little bit chaotic. They don't necessarily have that loud voice of an IGL in this trio. I feel like I don't see that dynamic in the trio, so it feels like everyone's trying to do their own thing, trying to find some refreshes, trying to find a way to get up that elevation, and unfortunately it just didn't quite work out for them. But I'm not too worried yet. I was looking at them off spawn as well, looking at how that they were getting Storm Surge tags early with the different teams around them, and they're playing so split, so the strategy seems to be working very well so far. I'm just slightly concerned that could be rocked a little bit as we go throughout the day, but a solid start from these guys, you can't complain.
Minimine, another trio you're predicting to have a solid start were Tayson, Trulex, and Chicho. And we did see them not aiming for altitude, but actually trying to fight their way through the lower grounds.
Yeah, they were, and I was a little bit confused actually when I saw this team actually below Surge there. I think it was around the 7th zone period. We sort of, I hyped up how good they were at playing this sort of mid-game Surge, those Surge towers. I was expecting a little bit more of damage, I suppose, coming into this point in the game. They solved that, of course, with their experience 11, but it was all about Trulex there at the end, trying to solo clutch his way through. Tayson was there too, a little bit split from each other. Things didn't quite work out for Tayson in the end, but Trulex managed to squeeze out a little bit of extra placement.
Yeah, we didn't quite see it. I would love to sort of know what was like the catalyst for them, right? But we get to sort of like second moving, and yeah, they're all a bit split up. I'm guessing like a team tried to like force some sort of like play on them, and then it sort of ends up getting scuffed. But that's not the type of thing you expect to see from those boys, right? You expect to see them sort of a bit more of a cohesive unit. Nevertheless though, right? Still a couple more games to go.
It's really exciting to see Cringe, Cade, and Mappy having so much impact on the high ground for the first game of the day, because I'm wondering if this is a trio that we're going to see a lot more from, and maybe even as the competitive year goes on, because everything seems to be working out for them. They seem to be a very well-coordinated unit. And Levin, we were talking about how important communication is for these trios, and it looked like it was on point for these guys.
Yeah, and we sort of touched on it a bit before, but up to this point, they sort of played the game how most teams are playing the game this season, right? The problem that I think you factor in is that you invest a lot of materials to get into this amazing high ground position, and you don't factor in the fact that this is a game where everyone's just trying to win the game to qualify for the grand finals. People are going to start TPing up, whether they're stacked or not, and if you're not stacked because you've used all your materials, how do you deal with that? They can't build fight people, right? And that ultimately costs them. So we'll see if that's an adjustment they make, and we keep seeing them up on height. But I did like sort of the intention from them at first, Mini.
Yeah, I did as well. And I mentioned it before the break. They didn't quite get enough eliminations. They only had one going to that 11th zone. We saw it right there. And I think, being so high up, which you of course need to be in this meta with these TPs, being so prevalent in this end game, it's so difficult to be that high up and find eliminations and find refreshes. So I think that was sort of their downfall in that end game. They couldn't quite find them. So I think what we want to see from these guys, more proactivity when it comes to eliminations, more sort of refreshes when it comes to actually building up for height and playing those high layers, and they should find some success for these guys.
Well, we've got 4 more victory royales on the cards for our trios today, so let's head over to our casters, the best Taco and Takata, for game number 2.
Thank you so much, Frankie. Look, Taco, I'm still blown away. I mean, being from Spain myself, seeing a Spanish trio where 2 of the players were competing in their first ever set lobby finals like this, I mean, it's incredible to see. But look, this also opens up a new opportunity. They were dropping at night shift, so now, they were contested before. They're not contested anymore. There's only one trio there. Will another one contest them? What do you think, Taco?
I think the best thing, though, is that Gorditi's trio kind of just proving that it's about translating your early game victories into a strong end game finish, because we saw them early on, third party up against Marine in that contested situation taking place by Twinkle Terrace. So they're not going to be the only team that are looking for that type of fixation, because game number 2, we've got a lot in store.
I'm excited. Only one game down, and I'm already feeling the group's excitement. Like I mentioned previously, Night Shift now only has one trio there. The issue is, I believe Brutal Boxcars had 3 trios contesting each other. I'm curious to see if anything has changed up, if players have kind of decided now, you know, maybe I can try and take over Night Shift, I can go somewhere else. What's gonna be the ultimate strategy? But hold on a minute.
Well,
hold on a minute.
There's definitely going to be some shakeups in strategies, Takata. Keep in mind that potential triple contestation that we might have seen with Risk, Fricks, and Stolly, they actually moved to Demon's Dojo and unsuspectedly conned Robin, Hydro, and Trexer. So I don't think that it's safe to assume that anybody is going where they might have initially led others to believe, because it looks like that triple contest was not the play after all for Fricks' trio, as once again they find themselves at Demon's Dojo trying to get the better end and succeeding so far. Trexer doing what he can, defend for himself. Stalin gonna be the first one to go down, but Trexer just trying to see if he can get a little bit of backup here. This time, Hydro a lot more prepared for that last minute con.
Oh yeah, great job cleaning up this engagement right off the start, basically, meaning that now they should have what is a majority, yeah, all of Dojo free for them to continue looting, taking out that Night Rose NPC, getting that extra loot and continuing on forwards, just like Frixie is going to be doing as well.
Yeah. Freezify, Big Luke, Act, Brutal Boxcars, just not going to be left alone. I mean, with it being a mid-map position, this is prime real estate to try and take control of. And not to mention the train itself, Takata, but it's not going to be an easy feat here for Nazen, the lone survivor currently of the French trio. Nate and Nosif hoping that he can just remain unseen so they can look for a possible reboot opportunity later on.
Looks like Dirty Marine, Ziffy are just going to be taking pop shots from afar on to their opponents here, but I don't think any fight is going to be formed from this. So we'll take a look at another Spanish trio here up against Sheriff. As Clone has already been cracked, he's going to have to be very careful here as angles are being looked onto him. Going to be forced to disengage.
You would think that this would be a pretty situation, though, for Muduz and Shrift, just considering that they've already taken out the other 2 Spanish members here. It's only Clone that is currently left to keep these Game 2 lobby dreams alive, but Sharif will be the first one to try and press into the box. Clone and not going to be able to find the shot that he needs. It does at least send a farewell card there to Muduz, and that might have just been the last measure to seal their fate here, because now Eyedrop Sky and Scroll immediately collapsing upon Seaport City. Coming out of Rolling Blossoms Farm, it's just all too easy for them to third-party the situation.
Yeah, it was played so well too. Miro, Sharif, they were able to get a nice little sandwich to get their elimination, but as Eyedrop kind of found that, maybe even looking at the feed, were able to know that, you know, players had been knocked down. It's a good opening for them to come in third party, and they played it perfectly to just get a bit of free extra loot, some free damage, and now even more options going forwards as we look at Atris and Skavi, who've lost Teeny already, but themselves are looking healthy.
Unfortunately, reminiscent of a lot of the starts that Skavi, Teeny, and Atris have been suffering throughout competitive so far this chapter, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't look for a bounce back opportunity. There's still enough chaos taking place in this early game as well, Takata, that they could definitely look for a reboot opportunity early on. But Tayson, Chicho, and Trulex, they were a team that Miniminer was highly, holding in pretty high regards as far as their surge damage monitoring is concerned, and for good reason. I mean, very often they control these mountains a little bit northwest and southeast out of Foxy Floodgate, but more so Andy getting a piece out of Henry for this one.
Great job. You can see might have been even a pre-edited wall from before, but just taking pop shots with the AR, looking for those openings, those cracks, as Zandy was able to find one, but one of his teammates has gone down. Both teammates down. Now Zandy from Glory to now down in the depths, playing it out as a solo in a 1 versus 2. Is he going to continue to fight this one out? Is he going to try and run away, come back later? As it looks like he's trying to take an angle, kind of looking to see what his opponents are going to do, but a whole other trio sneaking on in. Pre-edits come through, as now it looks like they might be able to clean this one up, getting straight into the box. As so far, no knocks have been made, but it's just a matter of time.
Maldives just trying to see if he could scurry away, but Malioich is not going to let this one go for free. He sees free surge like any other trio here, and Cranky going to make sure to finish what was left of Mavo. But more importantly still, Takada, it's the fact that this team all the way from Hopeful Heights was able to transition into splitting pins and just immediately find that opportunity once they heard the shots being fired.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of third parties this game, which is a great thing to do, especially in these set lobbies. You're going to want to study, where your opponents are dropping. And then if you kind of see in the feed that they might be getting into a fight, or even you just hear shots, to kind of know what your chances are in that engagement. Are you going to be playing a 3 versus 2? Or are you going to be playing a 3 versus 1? And kind of based on that decision, know how aggressive you want to go in. I mean, in trios as well, it's a lot easier to just triple spray pre-edit into a box, where as before it might have been a little easier to kind of survive longer as a solo, as a duo. But if your trio is playing right, if they're on the same wavelength, then it's very difficult to get out of those situations when you don't have that advantage.
But the action continues around Brutal Boxcars. Ugoba, Kifa, and Seden dealing with the likes of Moolah, but left side peek, not gonna find any success just yet, but Ugoba also trying to keep in mind, doesn't want to get pressured. Somebody trying to take the wall behind him. Still, slow and steady is not the circumstance here. These teams know with how much noise they're making, they're only going to draw in even more attraction here. So somebody's got to find time to elimination. It's got to be quick here. Seden trying to see if maybe a different angular approach could be the difference maker, but it looks like this one might just fizzle out in the end. And if both of these trios were to leave at this point, Takada, that is so much invested material for nothing. So Seden knows, just build up, look for a little bit of height leverage instead, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think they got a bit of damage. They might be happy with that. There's not too many trios close by, so we'll see what they end up doing. But based on this replay, Zandy's trio has been knocked out of this match. And it looks like Tropex is going to be able to get a reboot here on Fishy, as they'll continue to try to loot up. Now, the issue is when you have a teammate go down in this early game, you kind of got to do what you can to get them their own E-mask back, get them the mobility, and kind of loot everything up again.
It's also just going to cost them time that they could be using to try and find those surge damage tags instead. And we saw how much of a detriment it was for even some of our more veteran teams in that first matchup of today. Lucy, Monet, and Loki, though, have a slight surge base here, kind of peeking into the heart of both Seaport City and Rolling Blossoms Farm, but doesn't look like there is any movement out there. Most everyone has already managed to secure themselves a rotational position a little bit deeper towards that zone, or they're looking to just play the amount of shields that they have inside of the Storm. I know that that was something that we saw at a Demon's Dojo not too long ago from Robin, Haijo, and Trexer. They had ample amount of resources because they found those eliminations so early. They don't feel that pressure, that necessity to rotate so early.
Right. I mean, we're still in these standard zones, not even 4th zone yet, so there's no Rift Island. You have a lot more time to kind of play the edges here and control how you want to rotate towards the zone. So especially if you're stuck as a duo, you kind of want to take a bit of the safer route. For eye drop, Sky and Scroll, though, looks like they might have cleaned up something here. If not, they're just kind of splitting the spare loot. making sure their loadouts are looking good. But meanwhile, you have Moni up top, who I believe is tied for the most eliminations so far after game 1. But will that come to an end? As I feel some potential aggression coming. They already took some of the edits, as now they're going to chop them down and look for a potential fight. But the Oni masks were used. The good news about this season, about this meta, you can disengage very quickly, so it's okay to kind of split up from your trio and take various angles, various storm surge bases to look for those tags without putting yourself at too much of a risk of getting kind of jumped by a full trio.
And it makes sense too why iDrop was after that fight in the first place. Because with this Typhoon Blade, it's definitely much more optimal when you just have your full trio rocking those Void Oni Mask instead. But the way that they're rotating away from Seaport City, almost surprised that they actually didn't elect to do a little bit more fishing. Could have just been a different player from their trio holding on to that. But Babo was temporarily back in action, eliminated one more time. Cobra, Cranky, and Malioich, they are still playing this southern section of the map, and the outskirts still being within zone means that they can continue to try and find those surge opportunities essentially against teams that were hoping for a reboot instead on the outskirts.
Yeah, I mean, already 2 eliminations on the board, so they've got a bit of that kind of early damage. Will it be enough to kind of do a full dead side rotate? Not quite sure. We'll have to kind of see as time goes on of how many players are up. 75 so far, as it looks like Prax, Maxi, Mystic are going to be using a water sprite here to recuperate what they lost from that engagement. Darky still knocked down on the ground, crawling to see if his trio will be able to help him.
Problem right now though for Mystic and Maxi, and sure, they could always look to try and Void Oni around this issue, but Ein's trio kind of just positioning themselves between that movement into the safety of the next zone. They want to make sure that they are cutting off Mystic, Prax, and Maxi because they know this might be our best opportunity for Surge if they haven't actually found that chance just yet.
They know, though, there's another duo behind them alongside the 2 trios, so it's kind of a risky situation in itself. There's always that potential for a third party no matter who takes the first fight. So I believe it's almost more worth it here to just do what Mystic's doing, farm up, make your way to zone. If you do want to even look for tags, you know, do it from the zone in an elevated position, shoot at the opponents that, you know, are going in later to the zone. So we'll see what ends up happening, but fourth zone has appeared. Rift Island is back in business, and iDrop, Sky Scroll are going to be the ones to look to take down that Shogun X, get the medallion, and continue on forwards.
And look, they didn't get a chance to actually crane Shogun's arena in Lobby 1. They still managed to get their hands on that Shogun medallion, though. Whether it was them who directly took out Hedger's trio in that last lobby to get a hold of it or not, hard to say, Takata, but the fact that they're now going to start with control of this Shogun medallion, and a lot of times I do believe that this trio like to opt for medallion priority essentially amongst each other. So I'm really excited to see if they're going to be able to kind of answer that call that I was hoping for in the last game, where if a team has control of this medallion, you can look to play very aggressively for height takes.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll be able to capitalize on that, but Maltz is trying to capitalize on a sneaky shot. Unfortunately, it's not going to connect. It's going to use the Oni mask to try and run away, hide a little bit from Hedra, Kira, and Hyper's trio, but they're kind of hungry. They know it's a solo. They know it could be free pickings, and it's even on the way to zone, but they're not going to chase it.
Also, probably don't want to give away too many shots. They're starting to enter that edge of zone. It's very easy to get lobbied if you pull in that undesirable attention. Kind of funny to see an elemental chest this deep.
Yeah, still
having been not cleared out just yet, but it goes how it goes sometimes, especially coming out of Shogun's Solitude. Ziffy, Jerdy, and Marine, though, caught a little bit on the Warriors Watch Water.
As now, 5th zone Next one is going to be the first kind of so-called 50-50 zone, where you can start kind of positioning yourself accordingly, depending on how much damage you have, how much of a safe kind of position you want, if you have the opportunity to rotate with the Oni masks or not. So getting closer to the center if possible could be key here, but like we've mentioned previously, fishing is a strong part of the meta. You have a very good chance of getting shield fish without needing a fishing hole. You just fish anywhere you want in a body of water. So you can kind of stack up on a bunch of shield fish, which are incredible for healing yourself quickly in the late game.
Just kind of seems like Marines fishing party was a bit spoiled there by teams that started just sort of encroaching on their position. Still, teams trying to make their way over some of the shifting elevation. Mountain ranges especially can be pretty vicious to work your way through. Relvis, Davul, Kashi. They're gonna actually dip into the lower parts of this valley, but they know that they've got teams just ahead of them. Still trying to get mats from boulders where possible. Pradaj actually gonna be one of the trios still looking to kind of duke things out there in the distance.
Axe Forest, Ravon, and Fernine are 65 below. Good news is, if you look at the mini-map at the bottom right, there's a lot of trios close by, a lot of players that they can take shots on. Sheriff is going to go down, gets knocked now. They're going to capitalize on that for the extra damage on the knocked player, as now it might even open up another knockdown. Can they make it 3? Wipe out the whole trio while you're at it for 9, but be careful, as shots from afar are going to crack for 9. Now the danger levels are increasing, as they're going to have to take some time to heal up, but the zone is closing.
See, F9 thought that that was just a freebie to slam a trio really quick and get out. What they didn't realize was that Cringe, Mappy, and Cade are the reason why Miruz and Shrift were in that position in the first place. Just so unfortunate when you get pinched in the lobby like that. But one team's downfall is another team's potential upcoming here, as F9 running it back one more time. See how we got those quick couple of eliminations. And
nice
poor Miruz, he was just so stuck there between that other team.
Yeah, did a great job, though, closing out those 2 elims quickly. Right as the shots came in from the third party they got out, as now pre-edits are going to be used. Eric and his trio, 907 above the Storm Surge threshold already. They know they don't need this damage. You could always use extra eliminations, could always use extra loot, but it's not a necessity, so they don't have to risk it all to try and get it. Also being kind of so stuck in the mud here, I hope they kind of maybe elevate themselves a little bit and look for a rotation. They are on the uncongested side of zone, so especially with the Oni masks, they have a lot of options to rotate here, especially, you know, knowing they don't need that damage. So looks like they're going to do exactly that. Meanwhile, the brawl, the chaos is going to continue with I don't even know how many trios on the edge of the storm here.
Look, they might not need damage, but what they definitely need is more mats. That could be a big part of the reason why they're trying to just linger a couple moments longer, see if there might be an opportunity to vulture some of those other teams that were just stuck in that conglomerate of box fight. Hyper, Hedra, Gyro, though, just trailing behind. And one more time, a trio that definitely needed some damage. Don't want to just stay barely above that threshold. They will find solid elimination here. Hopefully True Legs, Tayson, and Chicho have also found more success this time around. And sure enough, these are the damage threshold levels that we kind of expect to see from this team coming out of the position for Boxy.
This is more the Tayson, True Legs, and Chicho Mini Miner was talking about in the early mid game, making sure they get more than enough damage while continuing to have a good amount of loot, good amount of materials, and be able to position themselves accordingly on these uncongested sides, get those early rotates. But for the duos that aren't in such of a healthy position, now we're forced to look for more damage. Moni is one of the elimination leaders, so aggression is there, but too much aggression isn't always the answer.
They don't want to leave it up to chance, though. Just barely hanging on above that damage threshold. They know they've got to rotate also. The problem, though, very likely that there's still going to be a team hanging out on the top of that Shogun's arena. But now both of these trios down below getting tagged up by that Storm Surge. They waited just a moment too long. Sure, they might be able to get these TPs through, but they want to get ahead because they want to look back, spray, hopefully just enough damage to elevate themselves. It's only 36. It's literally one tag here, but Lucy is just not going to find the opening just yet.
Yeah, Moni now got an elimination, but has the Oni mask back in zone. And the issue is, if you looked at the mini-map, the amount of trios that are going to be looking back from the high ground, from the hill, of everybody rotating in, it's just free pickings from the mountain that's going to be raining down bullets. As now Lucy, Moni, Loki are going to have to kind of find a safe entrance while connecting these shots. It's one of the most difficult positions to be in, and as he missed his Oni mask, I don't know what they're going to do.
Look, at the very least, he didn't miss out on this elimination opportunity, right, Takada? So make do with what you've got. And that's definitely going to be the motto for Monet. That siphon coming into play very heavily here. But as you already pointed out, all these teams that are already fixated on this Big Bend mountain range, it's going to be so hard for a team to work their way up, especially with a limited mount count as is. Loki, only 3 bandages as well. It is not looking good, Takada.
Yeah, and you know, we've mentioned this earlier, but now all these trios that decided to, you know, take the option and put themselves or position themselves accordingly to take shots of the trios rotating in are now kind of missing out a bit on that rotation quickly towards the next zone. It is going to be a zone that's fully inside of the storm already, so if you're able to kind of be the first trios to get there, it could benefit you later on, but they are going to miss out on that damage from all the trios that rotated in. We'll see how they're able to kind of clean up this rotate. They have to go up a hill, go around a hill. You don't want to land in another trio's box with the Oni mask, so doing everything together with a lot of synergy is crucial.
It seemed as though Maxi, Mystic, and Praxi might have had one of the more ideal positions on top of this mountain range, but again, that could change at a moment's notice. Sky, though, obliterated while looking for some pressure. It's clear that this team wants to make a layer swap. They were hoping to see if they can maybe find a knock or even just apply enough damage that they get a free rotate out of it. Instead, it's going to cost them a good amount of their splashes to make sure that Sky's back to being up and healthy. So much surge, though, Takada. It does mean that they can wait a moment or two longer than everybody else, but high likelihood that they're just going to look for a TP to hide option.
Yeah, we'll see that one of the 7 duos that did get a victory royale in the set lobbies this season, so hopefully they can do it again. But for Mystic, he's already lost one of his teammates and his other on just a sliver of HP. He can slip in the ice and it could cause him to get eliminated. Both now 12 HP on the board, doing what they can, as now Mystic is going to get knocked, brought into the box of his opponents. And it looks like Cringe, Mappy, and Cade might be looking at a potential change in layers here. Are they going to be looking up?
They're going to have to go for the chop first against Vanjki and Battercry, who aren't trying to make this easy by any means, just continuing to wrap their way. Good amount of investment, though. Practically all of the break. That is going to be all of Cringe's brick at this point, so the hard mats expended does mean that Cringe, Mappy, and K, they feel confident that they're going to be able to make this transition for a high take.
I like that tarp, though. They went into the storm, ticked a bit of extra damage, but it's okay. They can reheal it up later. They position themselves in the front now. Nobody can cut them off as the Oni masks are coming through. A little bit of desperation as a potential build fight might even break out here. I don't know if you want to keep going up here, but looks like they might have been able to claim it. Nobody contesting. Battercry and his trio here.
It's a duo at this point, though.
Yeah, it is.
Someone is bound to look up soon enough here, especially with some of the teams that we see down below. Marius struggling, though, getting a bit smothered here. Battercry trying to defend this high ground position alongside Vanjki, just taking separate positions temporarily, spraying down onto secondary height. If you're going to try and hold it as a duo, you might as well front. Act like you are a trio in the process, doing a decent job of maintaining towards that front side of zone as well.
Doing a great job of applying pressure to those trios that are second height, and they know now when they build out ahead, their next move is to look back, take shots, but after being cracked, it just opens up another option for them to play more aggressive. Height is going to be given up, as now Cranky and his trio are going to continue to build up. With the triple Oni mask, it looks like another trio wants it as well, as iDrop, Sky, and Scroll are continuing to fight this low ground.
All Sky, Scroll, and iDrop are waiting for is a pause in the action, and then they can up. They're already tarping through this secondary height layer toward the front side of zone. So it really feels like it's inevitable for them to try and look for that hide siege themselves. Cade, Cringe, Mappy, though, they're not out of the conversation just yet. Robin gonna be isolated as a member, and now that's just going to be a free refresh there for Cade. A little bit of Cypher material as well, but Cringe, Mappy, Cade actually forced to keep trying to tarping through this low ground instead, but they don't have many mats remaining.
That's the main issue. They can't go ahead of zone here. iDrop has too many materials, but now as they start to run low, they're forced to look for a refresh, and that's exactly what they are going to secure. iDrop, Sky Scroll doing a great job of staying ahead, looking back in the big tarp they've already made to find those refreshes, continue trying to drop down an opponent, maybe even whoop out a triple spray, anything they can here to continue getting elimination after elimination on the low ground.
They have so much control currently on this low ground. They're going to be able to cut off Mappy as well, but up above, Ewick trying to see if they can maybe find the advantage. They're going to fall, though, from that elevated position. Now a solo stuck on height, but Sky, iDrop, Scroll, they might just be content to keep breaking through the low ground instead.
Ewick broke his ankles, left his team now to clutch it out as a solo up above as Cringe is running low on materials. 0 builds left. They're looking up. That's the option. Do they know it was a solo that's dropped down? Elimination from Cringe. Now Cade is going to go down. Cringe is playing as a solo. Just 2 trios up. It looks like it's a 1 versus 3, and iDrop, Sky, and Scroll are going to be the trio to close it out.
Look, they might not have looked to take height, but at the end of the day, Takada, a Victor Royale is a Victor Royale. iDrop's more than happy to take their seat on that finals battle bus, and they did it in such a commanding manner as well, taking full control of the low ground, just not allowing anybody to break through their barriers.
I did get scared at a moment because in that last or second to last zone, they did get cut off on low ground, but it pulled back towards where they were already building. So they were able to once again stay ahead and just clean up all the players dropping down that ran out of materials, all the players that were low on shields, literally just cleaning up these scraps to close out and get that victory royale, qualifying them to the major finals. But look, we've had so much going on. There was so many angles, so I want the desk to break this down. Tell me what you guys saw.
Thank you so much. I think I've seen things you wouldn't believe, and yet you have to because you can watch them back on the VOD. And congratulations to Sky, Scroll, and iDrop, and also to Miniminer because they were top on your list of teams you thought would be taking a victory royale today.
Yeah, real bold prediction right there. I'm sure a lot of people would have not had them on their top 5 list. Now, I could have asked my neighbor's dog to predict, and they would have got that, I'm sure, as well. But a really well-played game, really nicely played. Low ground, we broke it down at the beginning of the day, Levin, how they can play that low ground well. And I think the way that they played that, it just makes me think, yeah, you know what, these guys are a low ground team. The way that they were getting those frags, getting those eliminations, staying ahead, and making sure there was no height changes like we saw in that game number 1. They played it to perfection.
It was the banker. It was the one that couldn't fail. It was the one that's never failed. I mean, you look at how they played it, like you said, it was, you know, not pitch perfect, to be fair, you know, if I'm being critical. I think there's some minor things they could have done better, as they would know themselves, but it was enough to get the job done. And I think it's great awareness from them in terms of just like, not necessarily like just playing for height in this lobby, where like they know it's going to be quite chaotic, and actually just, you know, choosing to play low and doing it quite well. I think obviously Takata was right to mention how like the sort of last pull sort of maybe favored them a bit, right? Maybe things would have gotten a bit messier had it continued to pull up the hill with that team sort of taking it from them. But they played most of the same game as well as they could have, really, and you know, they'll be happy to get out of this lobby now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I was looking at them off spawn yet again, looking at them early game, and you could see sort of the zone being a little bit more favorable for them, and that's where they're sort of staying a lot more together when they're looking for Surge. You saw them just outside of Seaport, outside of that city, and trying to look for those Surge tags, trying to like chop a team down on top of that Surge base, just really staying together for that Surge, and we could see them having a much more fruitful end game because of it, and they just set themselves up so well, and they executed as we know they well can do.
Yeah, I mean, you can see there 15 eliminations from the 2 games.
Crazy.
10 of those, at least, came from that last game. And now they're at the lobby because they've already qualified for the major finals. And we're going to be talking about the trios that are still in the running, still going to be boarding the battle bus around next few games after this break.
shot, cause I'm always in range.
Welcome back to FNCS, and we are so excited to have this show on the road because we've now sent two of our three trios, our three players in each trio. I'm getting all messed up with my threes today, boys. There's three of us here on the analyst desk, but we've only sent two so far. Two trios through to the grand finals of Major Number 1 coming to you later this month. And to be honest, Levin, we were definitely predicting the second game winners to be booking their spot early. Sky Scroll and iDrop, they did take that victory royale, and they took it with 3 still up and running.
Yeah, I mean, again, when you look at just the form of all the teams in this lobby, they're the team most informed. They're the team that have shown, you know, the highest propensity to be able to win games. And so it wasn't really a surprise in my eyes, right? I think the biggest surprise for me thus far, Minnie, I'm looking at Cringe, Cade, and Mappy and just how well they've played. Obviously, in game 1, they were on height and it didn't quite go well for them. This game, right, they had to do the job of mid and low ground and they looked really good. And honestly, they were a final moving zone away from actually winning the game. It was a bit weird, like when we're watching them in this endgame mini, they were sort of playing like refresh to refresh. Like you look at the mats there on Cade, like they've got like nothing, but they still just didn't lose panic, didn't lose hope of that game. And you see here, it was on this zone pull right here, it starts pulling backwards away from them. Had it kept pulling towards them, they honestly might have a chance of winning that game against iDrop.
Yeah, 100%. I think they were doing what they didn't do in the very first game. They were playing those mid to low ground layers. They were getting those refreshes, and they looked up at height at a really good time. But it was just unfortunate that one of them went down there as Mappy earlier on, so they couldn't quite keep all three together up on height. And as you say, I think if that zone had played a little bit differently with those refreshes that they've had, with the way that we know that they can play, they definitely could have walked home with a win. But really nice, consistent stuff from these guys, which is kind of what I was expecting from this trio. Of course, coming out of Mars Meadows, having a really good drop spot there, uncontested. You'd expect them to do well. But yeah, it's nice to see them there in the top 3.
I mean, there's a couple other teams here I'm looking at, right? And I'm thinking, interesting consistency-wise, obviously, right? You look at UX trio, a bit of an unfortunate end for them, right? Because they're the team that ends up taking height, and they looked like in a decent spot to maybe hold it out, but then like you're also looking at them and they didn't really have much. And then UX, and he unfortunately went down in a bit of an unfortunate way there. But speaking of height, right? I look at Vanjiki, Pixovsky, and Batacry in this game, Mini, and they were, again, another example of sort of what we saw in game 1 from Cringe, Mappy, and Cade, where you have a team that takes height, and then, you know, they just haven't got enough in the tank to actually hold it out throughout the rest of the game, right? These guys, in this circumstance, were actually sort of, the odds were against them, if anything, right? Because they've only got a duo, right? Pixovsky not there. But they take height, and you're thinking, okay, you know, they've got a bit of a hold here, but all those mats they invested to take height, you know, the rest of the mats are running thin, so as soon as any trio starts looking up at them, they're not in the best of spots.
Yeah, they're not. And because they don't have a trio, they can't have one player front side looking back at them, making sure that nobody can TP up. So, of course, there was a duo, or a trio, I should say, on the front side of the zone that just easily looked up and sprayed them out. And it was those lack of materials that they, of course, had that they couldn't quite hold onto it. So, not really ideal from those guys. But it just shows that height is not free. It's not there for the taking necessarily for every single team that's in the lobby right now. So, it can be kind of toppled over for some of the teams that are looking from the front side if you're not in a good situation. So, I'm excited to see what these trios can do for the rest of the games.
Absolutely.
So any bold predictions now that we are nearly halfway through the days, boys, in terms of these new names that we're seeing? Are there any, I wouldn't say pretenders to the throne, but any potentials for the throne that you think could break through this weekend? Minnie?
I mean, I was looking at Ewik right there, prime for success, up on the high ground. Duo looking pretty good. I think they had decent materials as well. I think everything was looking pretty strong for that team. They took high ground at a good time, but unfortunately went down to full damage. It was an absolute nightmare situation for them, but hopefully that's going to propel them through because they have a decent little drop spot, good off-spawn strategy. So that trio I'm going to keep my eyes on for maybe winning a game here.
Levin?
It's so hard. It's so chaotic in the early game. Like, I've been trying to keep track of just like all the teams moving around us. There's so many different teams and players like move into different spots. Obviously, when you win a game, you leave the lobby, so your spot becomes available. So there's now new teams trying to take that spot. That creates a weird power dynamic. I'm just looking out for what's happening in the early game. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if anyone moves into those vacated drop spots by our winning trio so far. If Frix's trio drops to Demon's Dojo yet again, we have them going for brutal boxcars, but it seems like they've made themselves a new home and they're very happy to stick with it. So we'll see if they do for game number 3 as we head back to our casters, Takata and the best Taco.
Thanks so much, Desk. And I mean, Levin called it out already, Takata, but there are just so many teams kind of just shifting every which way around the map, and one more spot just became available. Rolling Blossoms Farm with iDrop Sky and Scroll having just moved out, given that Victor Royale for lobby number 2. A lot of big things could take place here in game 3.
Yeah, a lot could happen. I mean, Seaport City, Hopeful Heights, both POIs above and below the drop spot of iDrop's trio are contested by 2 different trios. So all it takes is one of them to say, okay, you know what? Let's try out this split. Will it happen? Let's see. Game 3 starts now.
Look, it's feeling like the halfway point, right? As halfway as we can get for the day, Takata. And when we're looking at some of the teams that we've been seeing have some of those highlight moments in the end game, Mappy and Cade, I almost feel like this might just be a third time's the charm type of situation, right? Like, surely one of these high takes has got to work out for them.
I'm down to see it happen, Taco. I'm on your boat here, but we'll take a look now at, you know, what ends up happening in this early game, because this is where it all starts, leading up to those end games, those victory royales, as we look at Hasten, Trulex, and Chicho. Not too surprised that they haven't gotten the VR yet. It's just about consistency is what we've kind of been saying for this trio. They are currently in, well, depending on if you're including the trios that have already won or not, 10th or 8th place. Let's say 8th place on the leaderboard, not including the ones that have already gotten a victory royale. So not in that top 5 safely yet, but not too far either.
Yeah, but for some of these teams, they know they've got quite the uphill battle to try and tackle. Our teams that are also just hanging around the outskirts of the map, you know, trying to find different strategies that work out in their favor as far as their surge management is concerned. Twinkle Terrorist, though, continues to be a relatively hot spot here. Enix, Nazik, Sans might have a battle underway with that Chili Chug Splash haven't been popped. That leads me to believe that they're certainly looking for a fight.
Yeah, looking for angles as well, but over at Night Shift now. We talked about this previously. Panda's trio is not contested anymore in Night Shift, but they do have trios surrounding them that want to get damage, that want to get those tags. But seeing that Panda already has an elimination, I believe they are in a 3 versus 2, and Atris now is getting soloed out.
Yeah, but for Atris, unfortunately, he's just going to get hit from 2 separate angles. Doesn't stand a chance here. But this is all net positives currently for Panda and Perkins. He'll find the last one of the bunch here. Skvi taken down. An early 3 eliminations as well for Panda's trio. Takata just means that they're going to have ample time inside of Night Shift Forest to really loot out to their heart's content. And not only that, but they can even shift their rotation strategy because they have so much surge already established.
Yeah, it's a good kind of safety net, knowing you just get those early game eliminations. You've done so much damage, finishing off the knocks, the tags, the full eliminations. You can kind of safely just continue with your loot pat, be efficient, and kind of plan out your next stages of the match without as much stress. Taking a look at a replay of how some of these eliminations did happen. Kind of quick cleanups.
Enix really wasting no time to just throw himself inside those boxes. Mappy Cringecade, though, they've managed to find the roaming Shogun, hoping for a beneficial mythic drop out of this as well. Instead, no, excuse me, that's going to be for the Typhoon Blades over by Mass Meadows. But Cringe Mappy Cade, knowing that they have the confirmation of movement, I think it is a huge part of the reason why they've been able to look for those consistent high takes.
Right, and those are crucial if you're looking for the victory royale and not to qualify through you know, consistency, and we'll see that, you know, leading up to the final matches based on where these trios are placed on the leaderboard. If they only have a few points, they're going to be looking for that victory royale. If they're right on the cutoff for top 5 and qualifying through consistency, they don't need the victory royale. They just have a, you know, need a decent placement in the last 2 matches. So we'll kind of have to see how those decisions are going to be made.
Teams just continuing to try and lurk upon each other, though. They hear shots in the distance. They see if they can find an optimal position to get the better end of the exchange. Void on TPs as well, just flying every which way. But Shrexer, Robin, Hygel, they've got their prey currently spotted, and this is far east territory that we're looking at right now, Takata.
Yeah, this is edge of the map, quite literally, as we see the final remaining Spanish trio here in the lobby, who I believe are currently not doing so hot in terms of consistency. Actually 2 more Spanish trios, but both of them are 27th and 31st place, so they might potentially be looking for more of a victory royale, although with 3 matches left, there's still a chance of kind of making a comeback on the leaderboard. One good end game is what you need in this match.
Could be a little bit dangerous here right now, though, for Robin. Does have Ijo and Shrexer kind of backing him up, but playing from inside of the bush, just trying to find those tags. I was more so looking at the team directly underneath that hill. Just curious if they were gonna look for an opportunity to see if they could maybe try and tackle an elimination or 2 themselves, but able to hold that spot pretty easily.
So when I'm looking here at Brutal Boxcars now, this drop, like we mentioned, is good because it does have this mountain by it that gives you so much vision. And generally, we've seen trios kind of base up in different sections of this mountain to see multiple different rotates, but that's when they have Oni masks. It's a lot safer to kind of disengage. And I believe all they had were at least 1 kinetic blade, which I would argue is probably the worst mobility item based comparing to the Typhoon blade and the Oni mask. So we'll see how that plays out for them if they do end up getting pushed. But for Pixie, it's all about fishing season here and taking time to kind of get even those spare shield fishes that they could use for looking for tags.
It looks like Pixie might have even been the team that opted to move into that Rolling Blossoms farm territory, given that it just opened up at the start of this lobby with the success from iDrop Sky and Scrolls last match. Find that victory royale. Shattered Span, though. Loki, Lucy, and Monet still just waiting for their opportunities to establish Surge as well. And a lot of this just seems like there's been a slight lull here, Takata. It seems like a lot of that early excitement from our first 2 lobbies, teams starting to find a little bit more of their flow and rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, the day goes on, you kind of get to see a bit more of how these trios are rotating and have been rotating in the previous 2 matches, and what has kind of not worked, or maybe what has worked to get damage, or, you know, kind of adapting as the day goes on. And that's exactly what the top competitive Fortnite players are all about. As we take a look at one of the EU Titans, Titan trios, as they are actually going to disengage from this. They don't want to take any risks, as they are kind of playing a bit more for consistency.
Henry 30J, though, seems like he just really wanted to take this mountain away from Trulix, Chicho, and Tayson. Does come at a bit of a cost, though. Maldives finds his shields decently chunked into. Other teams now beginning to fixate their eyes upon this elevated position. Henry's trying to currently crank up on. Still should be a decent Surge base, though. But now they need to ensure that they are finding tags, Takata, because it's so much mats that they just used.
Yeah. As we take a look now at Hyper, Kira, his fan, also known as Hedra. We're looking for an engagement inside of zone here. Always a little risky, but seeing it's only second zone, you can afford. It's only 1 damage per second, 2 storms, so not too much to worry about. Have the Oni masks in hand. The issue is when you're getting pressure applied from multiple angles, kind of got to be careful. You can wait for a moment to strike, as you know that most of the time when pressure is being applied from multiple angles, you can maybe find an opportunity to just jump on one of the solos very quickly, box them up, but those are all very risky plays. It depends if you want to take it as the Oni masks are going to be used now to kind of rotate back into zone.
These teams are spending a good chunk of time, though, just trying to find some form of damage against the other. There's just no real command and control currently over this Flooded Frog's position. And now Prax, Mystic, Maxi, since they don't all have those Void Oni masks to easily teleport themselves in front, they're the ones that are currently being slightly held here. Ooh. And now another team from a completely different angle is just gonna find prime opportunity. Prax doesn't have any white heals either.
Yeah, this is kind of looking down below. I assume there's something there.
Some fishing, potentially.
Yeah, something they can do, as all of them are getting incredibly low on HP. Moni here has his full trio, potentially sneaking up. Still with the kinetic blade in hand. Maybe get a 3-2-1 triple spray. Maybe just find a nice little pump shot, but after the shot is connected, disengage is going to come through. The issue with this kinetic blade is you kind of stay still for a little bit while you're charging it up, and it's an opening for these top tier players to just completely delete you out of the sky. So it is a bit scary, but so far it's worked out.
Lucy also had that top of the hill angle as well to provide some support cover fire for just in case things didn't work out, like what we just witnessed. 2T also falling back with Vertigo. Some heals were left over. And Lucy, Monet, they seem like they might have a chance here. Make it definitely looking a pretty tough position. Very low on shields. Not sure how the recovery is going to work out for him. And he's not the only one that seems to be struggling a little bit here in the early game.
Yeah, you want to kind of conserve the chug splashes and other heals that might be a little more difficult to get if you can just kind of fish up to recuperate the shield you've lost already. So hopefully Battery Cry is doing exactly that. As we look into the zone once again, it is going to be Haijo up against one of the Spanish trios. Can they close this one out?
Haijo can't seem to catch a break here at Demon's Dojo. Even when they're successful in taking out Night Rose, they're still having to just deal with all these other players trying to steal away their loot benefits. Void Oni Mask gonna be able to create a little bit of distance, a little bit of space, and more importantly, get them into the next edge of zone, because now it's up to Stali, Fricks, and Risk to actually make their move inwards. And with only a Typhoon Blade, that's gonna be much easier for Robin, Haijo, and Trexer to even eliminate them on that rotate in.
Yeah, especially if they look back. Not a great position, but we'll see what they're able to do with it. As you can see, full Oni masks ready to go. Fourth zone has appeared, so we will have Rift Island coming. All the spare shieldfish now going to be picked up from the box they created earlier to fish, and this is actually looking pretty good. Versus Andy, Shark, and Ju. I kind of like how they're preparing themselves. Only thing I would like is maybe a better pump shotgun to the gray, but you know, it's fine. You can't ask for everything in these set lobbies.
Got plenty of fish at least to split evenly amongst their trio, so that is definitely a nice way to take advantage of some of the resources available on the map, especially when you're not under pressure. And just have to hope that they've been able to maintain a surge damage threshold as well, but teams now taking notice of Shogun's Arena having just spawned in.
Kind of long-range shots being taken. We haven't seen any big brawls on Shogun's Arena so far. It's kind of just been one trio that's walked up and taken the medallion, but Axe Force is going to get knocked down. Raban for 9 doing what they can to not lose the rest of the loot here. Crouching, avoiding those footsteps, kind of planning. Do we Oni Mask out of here? Do we try and catch one of the players off guard, as it looks like the Oni Mask into the zone is going to be the play to force a disengagement?
It might not be a disengage, but they might have been unintentionally bailed out by another team moving into this Magic Monster's position, drawn towards the sound of fire. Mystic, Prax, Maxi, they were hoping for a cleanup Instead, now they find themselves having to watch their own backs. They know that there's another trio lurking. They don't want to give up more than what they have to as far as their resource expense is concerned.
Very quick to reboot. Axe Force back into the match here. And I believe they even kind of secured Axe Force's loot, or at least a bit of it at least. They kind of boxed up his eliminated character and was able to kind of give him a bit here with the barrels. They should be able to get back in the game, so I'm actually not too worried about this trio so far.
Really thought we were going to see a little bit more there from Kira, but given that we only saw Kira on screen, I have to wonder if he might be by his lonesome, not actually intact with the rest of his trio. Might have been hoping for that reboot van that we just saw F9 use.
Yeah, we'll have to see as Kelda and Serena having a bit of a tough situation as well. It seems like this Spanish trio just keeps trying to fight everybody they possibly can. I wonder if they're kind of going for that, you know, victory royale, so they want to have enough loot, enough mats and damage to be able to secure that. It's just kind of risky to continuously take these engagements over and over again. As Saren's been cracked, Kelda's been cracked as well.
Everyone kind of just using what they've got, but Typhoon Blade, the Xing Xing is breaking through these boxes, and Kilva, Goba, they're gonna find themselves on the receiving end of it. It's only Seren things, but Briske, Fricks, Stali, they're just gonna chase him down. They know that it is only one member remaining, but a pull back, actually, reconsideration from Stali, gonna be instead content to take what they've already secured. Don't want to find themselves in a compromised position. It looks like Takata, just too much traffic in the area. Might have felt like they were going to find themselves getting eliminated if they were a little bit too greedy there.
How much have they even secured, though, is my question. I mean, still only 115 above the threshold, still not fully capped on mass, not even halfway there. So they've got a ways to go, but at least all three players are still remaining, so always opens up that opportunity for more. As Ewick now had an unfortunate slip from the high ground, kind of twisted his ankle up.
No, we don't talk about those.
Went down to fall damage, but you know what? It's all about making it happen here in the next game. As hopefully we'll see them in late game once again.
I think the toughest part is when it happens in 4K, right? Like, because imagine you're having, like, a lot of players, they'll go back, right? And they'll like, what went wrong for this match? You know, that kind of thing.
I don't want to be in that mob review session personally.
Probably, yeah, no. You know that they're going to mess with them a little bit about that. But, hey, still phenomenal things that could take place here in this third match. Not for Daviol, though. He's going to find himself eliminated by Ferdaj's trio. A big come up currently, though. They needed those mats to carry them through this mid game into the late.
That's not good for Fred. Radion, on the other hand, are going to be getting that quick refresh as we have Darky right behind them. They don't know how tagged they are, I think, but 1,200 above the Storm Surge threshold and a great position on this 6th zone, being kind of the first so-called 50-50 of the match, these partial zones, and another 2 eliminations gonna be picked up. This is huge for this trio. They can now look to play on the uncongested side if they want to kind of pre-fire, get closer to the storm here, pre-fire some Oni masks in zone, but there is 2 more partial zones that are going to happen before moving. So good news is they have so many options, so many choices. It's all about just making the right ones.
Fricks, similar situation on the other side. Moment to revisit. Finally did manage to get that final elimination onto Seren, but Monet, Loki, Lushi, a little bit stuck here currently on the side of the hill. It's a decent spot, relatively center to this zone, but they don't want to have to deal with actually breaking through towards the higher points of this hill. They do have options right now, though, Takata. If they want to go low, if they want to trek a little bit closer to height, but what they need more than anything right now is Surge.
Yeah, that's the problem. That surge kind of eliminates a lot of those options because they're forced to put themselves in a place where they see a lot of the trios rotating in zone. Good news is they're already so centered that they have vision on the trios rotating in. They have a secure position that's going to help them in the upcoming zone. So as long as they don't get lobby focused here, as long as they don't take a lot of damage, don't get cracked, and just continue to apply that pressure and hit their shots. I mean, mainly they have to connect their shots here. I don't think any connections have been made yet.
Pradaj's trio, though, when we last checked in with them, that was as close to a Loot Llama giveaway as you're gonna get. Monet, though, just getting ticked away. And fortunately for Monet, it was actually a knock from players afar. Otherwise, that would have just been clean elimination had it been to the actual surge damage itself. Still a rough position to be in, though, as Loki, Lushi continue looking out. It's Elix trio that they're trying to find tags into. Now Chicho, as he rotates through the low ground, but nothing is connecting.
They just can't connect these shots, Taco. It's exactly what they need, and they're forced now to use chug splashes, their last remaining heals, in desperation to just hit any shot possible. Are they going to be forced to make an Oni mask play? Are they going to be forced to play that risky kind of fight? I don't know how much more time they're going to be able to just take these ticks.
They've at least got mats, but they are using a good chunk of their hard materials just to maintain this spot, and they've definitely got to get a move on. They're going to desperately make a play for the low ground, hope that there's another trio, a team that's even worse off than they are currently. Lushi jumps straight into Pixoxy's box, finds the elimination they need, just now hanging 56 above, but the work isn't finished. They still have so much more to go.
It's a marathon for this trio, and they're just at the starting line here, able to get that quick elimination, but still need to replenish their shield, replenish their HP, make it into zone, and do even more damage. So many boxes to be checked. It's definitely possible, but it's not going to be easy for Mystic, Drax, and Maxi, though. They are looking a bit more healthy, more comfortable, as we see where this 8th zone is going to be pulling. It is going to be northeast, so honestly pretty close to where this trio is, as they can kind of look for options on rotating. You just have to be careful to not Oni mask where other trios are Oni masking and then kind of get stuck in their box. You want to find an angle, even if it takes, you know, tanking Storm a little bit, having to use a splash or a water sprite to recuperate it. As long as your trio's safe and together, getting to that zone is crucial here.
Prax has to be very tactical, though, with these last 6 charges on that Void Oni mask. If anything, they're probably even hoping that they're going to be able to find some eliminations, and hopefully those elims lead to those refresh charges of the Void Oni instead. Cringe now mapping himself forward. Cade, Mappy closely behind. Still, this isn't the kind of setup that you would expect or want for trying to take a height take here.
Yeah, Vanya's gonna go down right below them. This could be an opening for them to play a bit aggressive, though, but they don't know that Ziandy's right on their door, knocking, incredibly healthy. 170 above the Storm Surge threshold as they continue to rotate together. The trio right now with the highest elevation is gonna be Kai's, Kramsu, but Tayson, Chicho, and Trulex now 330 above. Just looking for any openings on potential eliminations, and they might have found just that as they get a knock, they get another elimination. 2 more on the board. This is huge.
Clean mat refresh as well. It was just so quick the way they were able to capitalize on those 2 elims. Kremsu, Gaze, and Clone, though, they're trying to maintain this strong high ground spot. They threw the TPs forward just in case. Always want to have those safety measures, but they're also ready to just get ahead of the rest of the crowd. Up on the hill, though, Nosif, Naze, and Nate, they've actually managed to break their way through the mid game. A little bit of struggles here for France, but their hopes very much still going. Case doesn't have that Void Oni any longer. The charge ran out, and he's been chopped.
Let that happen.
The fall damage is so tragic.
Absolutely devastating for this trio. Kai's getting eliminated. Clone Kramsu forced to drop down from the best position in the match to now playing it out as a duo. Only 225 above as they're forced to regroup and continue from the mid ground.
And that's how easy it can be for things, the rug, to get swept from underneath you completely. Cringe, Mappy, Kate, though, trekking through this low ground. Got a decent amount of space tarped out, but what they're trying to find currently is Parax wiggling his way through this low ground as well, but it's not going to be enough. A full trio bearing down on you. That's going to be a little bit more siphon materials here for Matt, Cade, and Crin to work with, but they need more, and they might just find it up against the likes of Hydro, Robin.
Doing a great job spraying back. Now, it's always risky when you go for that cleanup, even when you go from the knocked player to bring back the loot, and that decision is going to cause Mappy to go down, leaving his trio to play it out as a duo. They're not even ahead of zone here, so they're in enemy territory on this rotate, forced to jump around the edge of zone. This is risky. You could fall into an opponent's box. You could get boxed up yourself. It looks like Cringe has already been cracked, but the healthy trio up on the top in the clouds are just going to rain down from above. Win condition in their favor.
We saw the script earlier on in 5th and 6th zone here for Predage when they found that bountiful amount of eliminations back to back to back to back. You couldn't ask for a better setup, and now completely elevated here on height, spraying all these layers underneath them, not really leaving any opportunities for a trio to try and TP their way up.
Great job from Taste and Truelex and Chicho, though, catching a player off guard, trying to position themselves ahead of zone here. You can't use the Oni mask in this layer. It's all about playing together. Too many builds in the surroundings as they continue to break on through and look to find the other trio that's looking to claim low here. It might be a battle for it unless they want to take that decision to change layers.
Chicho, interested, moving on up, trying to stay directly behind Tayson. Tayson claiming so much space currently, but the shift comes at a cost. Truelex finds himself getting picked off here. Teams just lurking in the wings of that low ground. Gonna be able to find that elimination.
An amazing layer change, but it cost them a player as Sandy and Shark now with so little mats are forced to kind of play on the edge of zone here, look to drop down a player, have the option, unable to successfully execute it though, as Tayson is continuing as a duo, but he's running low on mats.
From rags to riches though, when we're talking about comparisons currently, Predage still so seemingly healthy up on the heights. Tayson and Chicho doing what they can to get by. They know what's taking place above. They can see just how much territory has actually been claimed up in the skies. But first, they've got to worry about this trio directly underneath them. They might find themselves sandwiched here. Shark, Z, Andy fighting for their lives. But it's going to be Chicho, Tayson doing what they can to survive. Instead, it's Tayson, though, finally exchanged.
Gets one, gets the finish, is going to keep him up in zone. Chicho now doing what he can, but he is going to get knocked down. Pred now left alone up top to let his two fraggers drop down, clean up the fight. Will they be able to do so, though? 3 water sprites, 6 splashes, everything to heal this one off, but they might even just be able to finish this off quicker if they can frag out.
Look, we know Shark is crazy, but anybody left in a trios lobby as a solo, it's never gonna bode well. Radion, Rogue, a little bit of a tango here. Only one more stands between the Italians finding success, and Predage succeeds. Victor out from up above just left his teammates to handle all the dirty work down below Takata, and it couldn't have worked out better for him.
Played by the books, cleaned it up perfectly, had more than enough loot to tank the storm there, was able to clean up the rest of that match, secure the victory royale. I mean, there's not much more to say about that, Taco. It was clean, it was executed well, and they did everything they needed to qualify themselves to the major finals.
If there's anybody I want to go back and see a replay of, though, it's got to be Predage. I'm sure he's going absolutely ballistic right now, knowing that his trio is confirmed and secured for the grand finals here in Major 1. But you really couldn't have said any better there. This team did everything they needed to. It was a clinical performance here in Lobby 3.
It's what you love to see, dropping down to frag out, get those extra eliminations. I think they might have even got close to double digits there in the last moments. You can see how many they have, securing that elimination and victory alongside it. Just the bonus points, because they already booked their spot to the major finals. I love to see it, but I also love to see the other 3 amazing faces on the desk, Frankie, Levin,
Thank you very much, guys. It's really nice to see another duo qualifying straight into the major finals. And to be honest, for Pradaj and Co, it looked really smooth. It was like no one was challenging them there. They played everything almost by the book for the perfect endgame, Levin.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw, you know, a big dub for the Spanish community in game one. This is a big dub for the Italians. The Italians, shout out to my guy Mike. I know he's viewing party, he's always watching these guys. And shout out to Pradaj, Rax, and Radion, because they're one of the few teams in the EU Mini that actually does stream a lot of the tournaments they play, right? And they've been a team that we've been able to consistently watch and follow through this season. They've played so many finals together. They have so much experience together, and that showed in spades here. They were a team that I would have expected maybe to get in on consistency, right? They've been playing well today so far, but again, if you're one of those consistency teams, you're making it into end games every single game. Eventually you get that win condition, you get a chance to win the game, and they took theirs here in game 3.
Yeah, big congrats to Rax in particular. It's actually his first ever grand finals, and he was leading the damage for the first 2 games, so he definitely deserves it. So big congrats to him in particular. And I love the way that they played this game, actually. They sprayed down Kaze. We actually saw that from his POV. It looked like Kaze and his trio, Kamsu and company, they were all up on high ground, and they looked like they were secure. They looked like everything was going their way. They were in that moving zone up on high in metal, and then unfortunately Kaze didn't place down a pre-TP that he could go back to when he got chopped out. Had absolutely no chance, and that just opened the door there for Pradaj and his trio to take high and take the win. So really well played game. As you mentioned, I think a lot of people would have had them in their consistency. They were definitely in my top 5 list for consistency, so nice to see a team winning on high yet again.
Nice to see more of Mini Miner's predictions coming true. That's why he's hired. We are going to go to a short break now, because that's why I'm hired. So please do not go anywhere. We'll be right back with more analysis from game number 3. back to FNCS Europe. Yeah, we got America coming later today, but we've still got a couple more games coming your way before then. I might be slightly in a slow motion now. I'm strobing, I'm at the disco because I'm very excited for us to be back for yet another year of competitive FNCS. However, we've just said goodbye to another trio. We said see you later because they've already soared into the grand finals of Major number 1. That was Pradage's trio, Pradage, Rax and Rayon, doing it for Italy. And you know what? They're through, but there's a few more duos who keep consistently getting to the end game, Levin, that I'm fully expecting to see in those major finals as well. We have to give it to the likes of Taste and Trulux and Chicho because it feels like there's quite a bit of adversity coming their way, but they're still making it to the end games and they're still looking like they're challenging for that victory royale every single time.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to be competitive. I think, I said at the start of the day, when they're making it to every endgame, eventually, right, things will click. You get a win condition and a chance. And to be honest, Minnie, everybody else, like beneath them in the leaderboards, will be hoping they win a game, right? Because if, one of those consistency team, gets a win, right, it sort of moves that threshold down for you a little bit and gives you a more fighting chance to get in on consistency.
Yeah, definitely. And also frees up a drop spot as well. So I'm sure we'll talk about that soon enough as well. But for these guys, a little bit unfortunate they're losing Trulux. It looks so good for them making it into this end game. Of course, a very, very home zone for them. You can see Foxy Floodgate sort of in the background of these zones. And it was a situation where I thought, right, I think this is the time. I think this is the time when they're going to pick up their victory royale. But of course, they had to scramble. They've run out of materials. Tayson are going down whilst Chicho was trying to solo clutch yet again. Just a little bit split in these certain circumstances. But you just know that they're going to keep making these end games. And as you mentioned, they like to get a win or they qualify through consistency anyway. So no trouble for this trio so far, no concerns from me, and that's why they're in 5th spot and 2nd on the consistency leaderboard.
Now, when you look at the standings, just remember that 1, 2, and 3, they're all trios who've won themselves a spot in the grand final. So really, we want to be looking at number 4 right now because that's where Cringe, Cade, and Mappy are sitting. And Mini Minor, they're sitting pretty in a way. This has been a fantastic performance from them. It's something that you definitely expected. As I said, that's why you're hired.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what I expected. I expected them to be consistent. I expected them to make these end games. I expected them to have good loot coming out of Master Meadows and just making it consistently to these end games, playing these low ground layers, which they're doing really well so far, Levin. Haven't really seen too much of a concern about this trio so far. We saw them trying to go for height a little bit in the first game. I think this is now where they're thinking, right, let's just play out our mats. Let's play our low ground. Let's play what we can do because, of course, now that I Drop Sky and Scroll are not in the lobby, they have a little bit of an easier time on that low ground layer.
Well, they've been playing well, but I actually disagree. they're in that last game, right, in the 10th zone, you saw them go for a bunch of different refreshes and it didn't quite click, and that's sort of what ends up, leading to Mappy going down, right, because he's in the back of the top, he's trying to look for mats. The main problem there was that they were looking for these sprays and, again, just not using the biggest, advantage we have this season with their pump shotguns. Every time you're looking for a spray in an endgame, use your shot, pump a wall. It's got 80-meter distance on terms of the structure damage, and then it's got incredibly strong structure damage. Pump a wall together, coordinate it, then go for the spray. You're going to get a lot more limbs that way. They weren't doing that, and then at least them not getting the limbs they need to stay in the game, and it could have been a better game for them, but either way, they're still doing incredibly well today.
I'm enjoying Coach Levin. I'm liking hearing this fire from you. As you're saying, that they found themselves in a situation and Mappy made a mistake and couldn't get them out of it, and I'd be curious to know if they are able to fix those issues. Do you think that we will continue to see them kind of challenging in these end games and hopefully taking a victory royale?
There's nothing to suggest they won't, right? They've got such a strong game plan, so I think they'll keep making these end games, but whether they get the win or not, I think is up to them. They've come so close in so many of these games already.
Well, we've got 2 more victory royales to crown before the end of today's show here in Europe, so let's head back to the best Taco and Takata.
Thank you so much, Frankie. Taco, look, it's getting close now. We're going to the last couple matches of Group 1. The cutoff currently for qualifying through consistency is 105 points. So if you're close to that, you're going to want to play a little safer for these end games. But if you're at the bottom half of that leaderboard, it's all about the VR.
Yeah, but that's the problem, though, Takata, is that you would think teams, they want to play safe, but when you don't have more than just this lobby and the next to try and find your seat on that finals battle bus, you kind of got to go for those crazy plays. So let's see what happens here in Game 4.
It's all or nothing. for these trios. They do have that last chance qualifier if they don't make it through today, but Taco, it's just 3 trios that qualify through last chance, so it's incredibly difficult. You want to qualify now, and to do that, it's top 5 or it's get a victory royale in one of these last 2 matches. And like you said, it's way easier said than done. You can try and play it safe, but then you need storm surge tags. You're forced to play a bit more aggressive if you don't get enough safe storm surge tags. If you get contested, you don't have the space. But Atris is gonna start off strong, knocking down Robin.
This is a very familiar Teeny strategy right now, Takada. Atris v Teeny completely bamboozling Robin on the outskirts here of Demon's Dojo, just taking full advantage of the way that this trio likes to actually split this POI on the drop. But this far north of Demon's Dojo, when they know that they had the man advantage, right? But Atris v Teeny, they still might not be as familiar as Hydro and Trexer, for example, with what remains inside of Demon's Dojo. So if they can clear out that trio, though, that could be a very promising start, at least for Teeny.
Yeah, this is why doing your homework is important in Fortnite competitive, making sure you know what your opponents tend to do, what their strategy is, where they end up dropping most of the time, and even where they end up rotating, so you can kind of catch them off guard if you're able to outplay them in that sense. But Nazen now in a difficult position as he lost both of his teammates.
Yeah, this is almost tough to witness right now. Not a ooh la la moment by any means, but Nate and Nasa, they still have a chance with Nazen running around. Maybe there is reboot opportunity. Hear the sound already popping off in the distance though for somebody. Oh, it's actually gonna be luck, but still, the fact that there's been this much calamity in the starting points, Takada, teams just constantly clashing, it feels like. That just goes to show that everyone is doing everything in their power to try and confirm either a victory royale or just moving their way up for the consistency.
Yeah, I mean, Warriors Watch was where Predige, Radion, and Rex were dropping, so that opened up a spot, and it caused, you know, a team to contest each other. So there's always kind of that risk if you do try switching up your drop spot to somewhere where a trio has qualified from. But it can pay off as well as we look at another replay from Atris, picking up one more player.
Trexer was probably just hoping for a little bit of elevation to get an idea of where Svi and Atris were actually at, but does lead to that team's demise. Marine and Dirty working on double revive though. Expedited speed, Zippy back into action and immediately taking down an opponent.
Ooh.
Steep cost to pay there for Sans, who was hoping to have the advantage initially.
Second for Ziffy, third now for the trio, as they've secured a full triple elimination. We've mentioned this before. It's a great position to put yourself into in this early game, getting that early damage, being able to focus on looting the rest of your drop spot and rotating to where you want to look for even more of those tags that you don't need as desperately anymore, as Hydro now seems to be on the run.
Yeah, Hydro is a wanted man currently. It started at Demon's Dojo, and it has just continued. This Void Oni masked game of tag that Hydro is playing up against Moulage Trio, and it's looking very dire right now for Hydro. Even make it given chase with both the Typhoon Blade and the Void Oni. They want this final elimination so badly just because they have recognized the fact that it's a solo. And for Hydro, even if he does somehow survive this exchange, this has clearly compromised his capability to get an early reboot off.
Yeah, target on his head. We'll see if he's able to lose the stars shortly. But Raban for 9 and Axe Force now are putting themselves into the action, and it's working as they find one knock, looking to make it 2 on Mystic, but quickly enough he is gonna disengage. Oni Mask is gonna be used to try and finish this knockdown, get that extra damage and loot secured, as the rest of his trio is kind of on the hunt now, I believe, of pushing the players away.
They might chase Mystic into the water at this point, even doing what he can just to trying to hang on to a glimpse of hope here in game 4, Takada, but there is only moment separating Mystic from becoming another elimination here for X-Force's trio. He does find himself on the outskirts of the water, but X-Force not gonna allow for that next TP to go through. The chase has come to a conclusion, but those are really great eliminations for F9's trio that have collected some really great early damage as well.
That was good. I actually want to see this replay. I believe Mystic was like a second away, a millisecond away from using that Oni mask, so didn't have to waste any more charges after hitting that shot. As we look now at Nova, Alex, and Rabbit. 3 points on the board.
There is so much happening at this bird to go currently, though. Takata, Nova, Felix, Rabbit, they're going to be one of our trios kind of hoping for the Victor Royale status, but Hyper fighting back. Kira with his assistance. That's going to be a clean elimination. Start things off here. Kira now trying to see if he can find another. Gets a little bit split on the angle approach, but Rabbit not good enough. Shut down here for Hyper's trio. And 2 quick eliminations now gives them a little bit of breathing room up against this next trio that's approached.
Exactly. Third party's going to come through. This is what you have to be careful of. As Darkus is looking to find an angle here, any connection possible. Levin was talking about it, how powerful it can be if they try and line up a triple shotgun, triple spray. But the issue is sometimes in these mid-game engagements, not in the late game, when the opponents already know where you're coming from, it's almost better to just look for multiple angles and try and catch a player off guard. I'm wondering if that's exactly what they might be looking to do here, scavenging the rest of the loot.
Kira was holding this edit, though, for a hot minute. Wants to make sure he's got the appropriate response measure needed the moment that he opens up this wall. But Darkies, they seem like they've been a little bit distracted by a team potentially spraying the other side of their box wall from a distance. And in fact, that is going to be the disengage. I'd rather get out of dodge than let this one continue. Kira sending some farewell shots Darkies' way, but at the end of the day, it's Hyper's trio that profited there.
Priestess once again with his trio fighting. What a surprise. Every time we look at them, they seem to be in an engagement in the zone. They know what it takes to get enough loot and materials for that end game. And I mean, thinking of the trios, they've got 18 points right now in 29th place. If they don't get a big end game here, they just have one more chance to qualify, and it's probably going to have to come down to the victory royale, just like Rabbit, Nova, and Felix that we saw go down with 3 points. They need to make it happen in this last match.
But if there's a team that you could anticipate to find that victory royale moment, Atris, I think that's a trio that you can always keep in the back of your mind. Chicho right now, though, kind of staring down Henry 30J from the safety of both of their surge bases. And it's evident that Chicho definitely wants to get the better end of this deal, considering that holding this mountain next to Foxy Floodgate, whether you hold the north side one or this southeast side one, you can control the flow of the lobby pretty well, depending on how accurate you're able to apply some of that surge tag damage. And if there's anybody that can definitely be the definition of accuracy at times, it's Chicho.
Right, they're currently in 2nd place on the consistency leaderboard. They have a body of water by their storm surge base, so they can, most likely have already farmed a lot of those spare shield fish. They can take the damage. It's looking good for this trio. It's all about just cleaning it up, staying consistent like they have, and keeping their place on the leaderboard. For Ju, though, he still has his full trio up, but it looks like they might want to play a bit aggressive against Fishy here.
Can't blame Ju either. This is their mountain span that they want control of. Shark with the cutoff approach. Right next to Z Andy. Ju under a little bit of duress here. Shark contemplating if he wants to close the gap. And he has that Typhoon Blade, though, to work with. So for the time being, at least, Tropic's gonna get a little bit of that high ground position. Throws out the Voidoni. Doesn't want to end up like some other contestants with the chop out measures. Ju doing what he can just to recover some of his shield.
Yeah, it's kind of an angles game here. Nothing has fully happened yet. It's more back and forth, but for Atris and Scavi here. They're finding multiple angles onto their opponent. Gonna secure the knockdown on Saren as he's gonna get finished. And I think that's gonna be it. The rest of his trio is probably already far away, as they're gonna now just continue with that Mythic Oni mask back into zone.
Teeny's team right now is playing like they've got a fire lit underneath them, Takata. You could almost feel just how eager they are to just lock this lobby out, get the Victory Royale, secure their position on the battle bus. It's just been such a tumultuous chapter for them so far. And everything leading up to this first group stage, it's just never easy when you have so many expectations, a decent amount of pressure, I would even say, from the way that Europe has been kind of regarding a lot of those players individually. And for them to be struggling as much as they have been, I won't say that it's surprising, but it does kind of catch you off guard.
It really does. It really does. But for Crankly, Gabara, and his trio here, they're gonna have to be careful if they're not aware of their surroundings, as the triple sprays have come through in the zone now, looking to clean this one up. It is third zone, so the storm isn't taking too much, just 1 damage per second. But as time goes on, fourth zone appears, Shogun's arena appears. You gotta be more and more careful.
Yeah, we're not. I'll hold that thought though. Haijo, Trixer caught in the thick of it. The fact that Robin and Haijo are there, they're trying to make this happen, but they are just so scattered from amongst each other. This could be a huge refresh though, but they're not going to find it. Robin watches the Elim disappear right in front of him from that teleportation. Now Haijo getting lit up from a different angle entirely. Trixer and Haijo, they've only got tatters left essentially. This last medkit now from Haijo. But losing Robin yet again after having gone through all the problems involved with getting that reboot in the first place. And now they have to go right back into it.
Yeah, you can see the Oni mask being used. Haijo looking to see what his options are. Any angle possible here. But with Robin having gone down, they're going to try and be able to bring him back into the game, even if it means tanking a bit of Storm. It's okay. This early on, they are going to be able to get that reboot. Could have definitely been worse. They've gotten a bit of damage, as now it looks like this might be the first battle that we might see on, I was going to say Shogun Arena, but now that I think about it, and they were just shooting at the boss, so no other trios contesting them so far. Should be a quick cleanup.
Vanjiki, Pixovsky, Battercry, they're going to be the ones currently claiming that Shogun X Medallion, but at the same time, Takata, I think part of the problem involved is that when teams are trying to make their approach to Shogun's Arena, knowing that there's already a trio up there, it just becomes so chaotic, and you never know if you might get stuck even inside of one of those rifts, for example. We've seen players floating around unintended, and they just get picked off along the way, but it's just very difficult to actually try and contest a team up top successfully when they've got so much view coverage as well for teams that might be trying to make the approach.
It really is, but you know, you can still make use of the wind to kind of rotate around after these trios have left. As we'll take a look at a replay here inside the zone by a reboot van. Looks like Relic was just doing his own thing. Unfortunately, though, spent a little too long on the vending machine, leading to his demise, as it might have just made another trio come true.
The amount of teams that are currently playing from inside of the Storm, though, Takata, things are so haphazard when there are this many teams having to fall back into the Storm, looking to play for the reboot vans. And I believe that Moolah was even one of the teams that might have been caught up more recently with Haijo, Robin, and Trexer, trying to prevent them from having a solid rotate in, but now they find themselves in a very similar position. Another team's just trying to take advantage of fishing before moving in.
Yeah, trying to secure those shieldfish. They've already got the water sprite. I'm looking, I want to see some more plays in these late games of trios kind of tanking a bit of Storm with the water sprite, especially if they're kind of like second height or even third height, and using that to kind of take height from the Storm, trying to surprise the team on high ground. Haven't seen that happen yet. We've seen Queasy do it in some of the previous events we've had leading up to this, but I want to see it happen more when the Victory Royale means so much in these events. For Vanya, Pixie, and Marius, though, they're still here looking to try and confirm that Victory Royale. I'm surprised they haven't done it yet. I mentioned it earlier, but if you didn't hear, Vanya has a 20% win rate in these reboot style matches. He was the only player who qualified in 2024 to all 3 EU Major Grand Finals by winning one of those semifinals games, by getting that Victory Royale, and his trio has yet to have secured it here in Group 1, so hopefully they can try and make something happen here.
This is looking like a very strong setup currently, though, for the end game. As far as Shield and Mats are concerned, Venya, Pixie, Marius, kind of just hoping that they're going to be able to, not necessarily final eliminations, but they just want to maintain that surge damage threshold more than anything else right now.
Yeah, looking again at Atris, Tiniska V, I mean, they're in 20th place right now. They're not that close to the top 5, and they're the only trio in this lobby that have won 2 set lobby or have gotten 2 set lobby Victory Royales in Group 1 this season. So they're more than accustomed to getting these VRs, but they're just kind of on the middle half of the leaderboard. Haven't been able to do it yet, but look at this, Taco. 4 eliminations already, over 500 damage in terms of Storm Surge. They just pulled zone here in the 6th zone. There's just these little things that are happening that are giving me faith that this might be the match for Atris, Teeny, and Scooby.
Yeah, Teeny's trio is definitely keying a bit as well. But the way that they've been playing this lobby so far, it certainly highlights the fact that those first 3 matches have not gone the way that they would have hoped for. And their playstyle even leading me to just think that all they want is the Victory Royale. But if they have a lot of eliminations, that might be enough to surge them upwards on that leaderboard, maybe put them closer to that position to play for placement as far as qualing is concerned. Cushy though, Ewick not gonna stand a chance here. He'll be the first knock that we've seen. Dabiel now having a chance to potentially get double revived here, but the pressure continues to commence here as another team breaks down these walls. Still, success with that double revive, at least for Dabiel.
This is scary, though. The Buell and his trio went down at, I believe, the same time in the previous match here, right before getting into endgame. We don't want this to happen again. We don't want the same mistakes to be made. So luckily enough, this time around, they are all up once again with the triple spray, have more than enough damage. They just need to make it to zone.
Pain currently, though, for Ewick, but fortune seems to be on his side for a moment here, at least. His teammates believe should have some success with that double revive. Pivoting focus back towards Cade, Cringe, and Mappy, though. We've seen some really strong moments coming out of them today. They're in a really strong position as far as the leaderboard is concerned, but what these teams want more than anything, Takata, is that Victory Royale.
100%, especially if you're on the lower half, right? I mean, it's all or nothing in these last couple matches, last 2 matches of Group 1, unless you're one of those teams that are kind of on the borderline or even, in the top 5 already. It's not even for the Victory Royale. It's just making it to the late game and doing what you can to secure as many points as possible. Obviously, the cherry on top would be finishing it off with the Victory Royale, even if you're already in that top 5. But it's easier said than done as Tayson, Trulex, and Chicho rotate right down the middle, beelining it to zone, and it works out basically flawlessly.
Could be a slight hiccup in their game plan, though. They're just coming up on Lucy's trio, and that could make for a very difficult circumstance as far as their rotation is concerned. Cringe, Cade, and Mappy, though, just duking it out currently. Zeden gonna be a victim towards that team. Always nice getting those elimination points, getting a little bit more siphon materials as well.
800 above the Storm Surge threshold for Vanya, Pixie, and Marius. This is 7th zone, so Storm is taking way harder. Storm Surge is going to be incredibly impactful, seeing that there's 53 players up. It's going to have to drop down to 40 if they don't want to take damage from it, but That's for the players that haven't done enough. Vanya, Pixie, and Marius have to capitalize on those trios now and try and catch them off guard. Maybe pick up some extra eliminations.
Battlecry's trio, though, up above, still hanging out on Shogun's Arena. Probably enjoying the view currently. All these trios kind of scattered about, and some of these teams definitely struggling a little bit more so with their position. Monet spots a big opportunity, though, on the TP in. Mula gonna find himself eliminated on the other end of that hollow twister there from Monet, but Loki and Lushi, they needed the mats more than anything, and they also needed some damage, just barely going above the threshold currently. Puts them out of the danger zone, but not entirely removed from the hot seat just yet.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is solid weapons, solid heals. So if they need to take those fights, you know, they have that advantage to their name, but will they be able to capitalize on that as Cringe, Mappy, and Cade now continue to rotate closer and closer to this 8th zone? Whole zone basically in the storm. So once again, are you going to choose to kind of rotate further on in and not have as many options for tags? Or are you going to play more on the congested side where all these players are rotating into to have that opening to take those shots, but, you know, putting yourself in much more of a risky position?
It's crazy to think, though, that we're witnessing a game where Teeny, Atris, and Skibby are just sitting below that surge threshold with how aggressive they've been throughout these lobbies so far. They're looking to shut down Lushi's team's dreams, though, currently. They've already gotten Loki in the mix. Monet fighting for his life currently. And Teeny, not going to waste any time, knows just how much they needed this. Water Sprite as well. So many goodies just received from finding those couple of elims.
Oh, those were everything for this trio, but the issue is going for that has now caused them to be the prime target for all these trios that are looking back in zone, trying to find players rotating in late. I believe already one of the trio has gone down. I don't know if anybody has successfully made it into zone, but for Tayson, Trulex, and Chicho, they're sitting comfortably in the mid layers here.
Yeah, this is devastating as well for Lushi's trio, because heading into this match, they were sitting around 7th on that leaderboard. Factor out our top 3 teams, of course, that had their Victory Royales, but so you're looking at a team that's like 4th out of 5th, technically, for that top 5 as far as consistency is concerned, and going down this early is just so detrimental to their overall game plan. It's going to come down to the wire for Game 5 for a lot of these teams as far as that top 5 on the leaderboard is concerned.
It really is that much more pressure for the last match, but before that, we need to close this one out. We do have Shogun X Arena still inside of the zone here, just giving the ultimate high ground for Battery Cry and his trio up here, raining down from above, as now Atris and his trio are going to make moves to a solid layer, but Tayson, Trulex, and Chicho want a bit of it if they're able to get ahead here.
Tayson doing an excellent job to kind of pilot his way through some of these secondary hype moments. Is Chicho sticking right behind him. They don't have the Void Oni mask, so they're gonna opt to commit to the low ground currently instead. But Cringe, Mappy, Cade knocking on the back door here currently. Venya as well with Pixie and Medius. They've also got some intentions playing about 1 layer above ultimate low. And Tayson just trying to remain as concealed as possible, but they still want full control of this front side low ground.
You can see how quickly they're making that decision to walk on ahead to try and claim the low ground, but from that 9th zone, there's so many trios that still have a lot of mass, still have a lot of loot to fight this low ground. It's not the battle yet, but now Tayson, Trulex, Chicho are going to try and fight to claim this low ground. It's going to be against Vanya as the pre-edits are coming through. The shots are connecting as they've already taken down one, but an angle is connected onto Tayson. A quick back shot is going to be what he took, though, to keep on going forwards.
Huge work there, though, from Teeny. The fact that he's still standing with hardly any resources to his name, just sheer willpower and fighting potential. Up on the high ground, though, Mappy, Cringe, Cade, they're going to begin their onslaught of the rest of the lobby. This hill pull just so promising as far as the high ground team is concerned, but for everybody else, they're left to scatter amongst the low ground. Tayson gonna take a couple more ticks than intended, but when you only have the Typhoon Blade to work with, what other options do you really have?
They have the Water Sprite here. They can choose the tank, a bit of Storm potentially, but they all have to play together. The synergy is here. Can they continue on forwards? Loot is going to get picked up. It's going to be Teeny that drops in the box. Both Tayson and Teeny are going to go down. Chicho, Trulex now have to close this out as a duo, while Cringe, Mappy, and Cade are controlling the height.
This is looking so good right now for Mappy, Cade, and Cringe. You can feel the excitement building for our team on the high ground. All the while, though, Chicho, Trulex just trying to keep the dream alive, and they're not the only ones. Ju as well, fighting it out inside of this congested low ground tiers. Chicho even gonna take a moment to fall back, moment to go inside and find Hyper in the mix of all these builds.
Another one for Chicho as Trulex and Chicho continuing to power on through this hill, going up and up and up, taking out player after player, but Trulex goes down. Chicho left alone now as there's still 8 players up, 4 trios. One shot needing to be connected by Chicho here on the low to pick up another, but the height battle has concluded. Cringe taking out all 3 players. All they need to do is close it out.
They can taste the victory royale. It's so close. They can smell it out. Mappy, Cade, Cringe, they're going to fall back even. They want to confirm this. Chicho, Tayson doing what they can, but it's not going to be enough as Mappy, Cade, and Cringe finally secure their victory royale on the day. Takata, they've been hunting it in every single one of these lobbies, so it's almost inevitable that they secure it in the 4th.
Not only are they currently in first place on the consistency leaderboard by 50 points, but they said that's not even enough. We're securing a victory royale on top of that and claiming their golden ticket to the grand finals. But not only that, what a performance from Chicho as well. One of the other most consistent trios making it to this end game, but the ones that took home that golden ticket is gonna be Cringe, Cade, and Mappy.
Respect the attempt, though, from Tahi's team to try and overtake the high ground with those TPs in the last moment, but it's just not going to be enough. Instead, let's hear from what the desk has to say about the breakdown of Lobby 4.
Thank you very much, guys. What an epic finale to game number 4, and an epic fail by Miniminer, who said, these guys, they're so consistent, but they're not going to win a victory royale. What did you make of that game, Miniminer?
Yeah, I mean, I was wrong, I guess. They've been very consistent today, which is exactly what we expected from this trio. We talked about it so often. I mentioned it before that game right there. They actually went for height in that first game, remember? They built up all the way up on that hill. They tried their best to hold it, but they couldn't. This game, a much different approach, Levin. They played on the low ground layers. They actually sprayed out Pixovsky and his trio really, really well. And I really like that height take. We were both saying back there how good that was. And they just able to ride it out from there on out because of those zones.
And the key to the high take there's the timing, right? You look to the zone was pulling up the hill. If Pixoxy had held it going up that hill, no one else would have been able to take it. It would have just been, they can play the game from there. But the timing of it, just before it starts pulling up, they chop them out, they take it for themselves. And then obviously again, in the later zones, when someone else tries to take it, they're ready, they fight. They've been hitting so many shots today, and the player quality has just been top notch from them. Then it's up to just dropping down, finishing out the game, closing things out. It's been a great display from these guys. Honestly, a bit sad. I wanted to get another game of these guys, right? They've been providing the entertainment all day long, but they were bound to get a win with how they've been playing eventually.
Yeah, we were saying literally in the post game of game number 3 that this is a trio. They've been making some mistakes, but they can make those micro adjustments to come back stronger and cleaner, and that's exactly what they did. And we will hopefully be coming back stronger and maybe a little bit cleaner after this short break. Hello and welcome back to FNCS. We just have one more game of Group 1 this major, but it's definitely going to be a banger because the lobby has been left wide open. We've already sent 4 trios all the way to the grand finals later this month, and now there's one more guaranteed ticket that our teams could take if they get the victory royale. However, let's talk about what went down in game number 4, because a few people went down when they got chopped from height, but we got to talk about the low ground first, because Tayson, Trulux and Chicho, they've just been roaming around, and sometimes I felt a little bit sorry for them, Levin. It feels like they're getting stuck in a bind, even though they're making it to the end games.
I mean, yeah, look, I talked about the sort of zone pool that determined what happened on height and what led to the game win, but that zone pool almost got these guys out of the lobby completely, right? Mini, they were the last team to sort of get up the hill. In fact, they didn't actually get up here, and zone sort of pulls, and it pulls in the perfect sort of way to just allow them to stay in the game and sort of run around the hill. If zone had just kept pulling up the hill, there's a good chance they just go down straight away. Like, they had no mats, they had nothing, but the zone pool was favorable. They're able to get a refresh, stay in it a bit longer, and then Chicho and Trulux both with very impressive sort of solo clutches.
Yeah, a little throwback to duos right there. I thought we were back in 2024. Chicho and Trulux clutching up in endgame. A little bit solo, as you mentioned, so they were having to like sort of solo clutch individually. Didn't quite work out there in the end. Chicho was kind of holding his own at the end. I thought maybe there's a possible chance that he could do it with this Siphon, but no, of course wasn't to be. But yeah, I noticed the same thing. When that zone, I think it was the 11th or 12th zone that ended up pulling. I think it was the 12th, pulled actually so favorably for them that they didn't have to go over that hill and expend the materials that they didn't have. So really nicely played from those guys. I think they're a shoe-in now to qualify for the grand finals in that top 5 consistency, which is nice, but of course there's still one more game to go, so I want to see these guys continue to make that end game, not fall off here at the end, just continue what they're doing.
Right, I'm going to do a little bit of standings admin. Look at number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Ignore them. Number 5 is our top spot for the teams that haven't got a victory royale yet. So as we've just mentioned, Tayson, Chicho, and Trulux, they're playing a blind, even if they are getting unlucky at times. But look at number 6, aka number 2, because Vanchki, Pixkovsky, and Batacry, they're names I'm not really that familiar with personally, but actually in the last few games, they've really come to the fore. They are taking some risks. They're challenging for height, and they are looking like they will be in that major final, Levin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think some people might recognize Pixovsky as like the former console GOAT, right? Like this guy who used to win everything in the console tournaments. But, you know, here on PC, putting up a show as well, this endgame looks so prime for them to do well. Look how many mats they're saving here, just from the way the zone pulled, being able to stay up on the island. And then they drop down, they start playing for height, and I've already said it a couple times now, but the zone pool, they get chopped on that pool, and it's really tough, right? You have to sort of like criticize them there, maybe say you got to be a bit more aware, right? You have to be spraying teams more, applying a bit more pressure so you don't have that, especially on such a critical pool. But even then, Pixovsky able to use that Invis coin medallion just to be able to, you know, sneak out some extra points out of that game.
Yeah, I think if this team were sort of a little bit lower down and they needed a victory royale to actually qualify to the finals, I would be like, this is a massive throw. They definitely could have played that high ground a lot better. But because they were in that sort of position where they only needed a decent game, it actually worked out quite well for them, right? They made it further on into the game. They still managed to get themselves down onto the low ground without going down to fall damage, which is key. We saw a lot of players and teams doing that earlier on. They had those TPs placed, which is nice. And they just played that end game out really nicely. Getting onto height was the key thing. So I think for this team, I think they'll be qualifying through consistency.
Earlier on today, I really enjoyed Coach Levin giving his constructive criticism, and I was just wondering, could we do a little bit of VOD review for Pixovsky's trio, please?
Yeah, so it's all about the fine details, as we've highlighted in the end game, right? And some of the small fine details cost them in the end game, but earlier in the game they had a similar situation. They're here on the island taking down the Shogun boss, and of course it drops that medallion. The problem is they eliminated him too close to the edge of the island, so the coin drops down, and so Vanjiki has to drop all the way down to pick it up. Now in this game they're very fortunate, right? They don't get punished for it because the island was sort of on dead side. There's not many people around. But in another game, if that had happened and like zone and the island's on congested side, 100% the lobby does not let them get that medallion for free, right? And it just loses them the game. If you're taking down the boss on the island, don't take it out when he's right on the edge. You time it so that his HP, and you're taking him down when he's not right there, because if it does, you could lose your game because of it.
All right, everyone watching right now, write it down, make it a copy paste in chat, whatever you have to do, just to remember, don't fight the boss when he's on the edge of the island. Mini Miner, now you did make some big predictions before we went into today's competition, so have you got a prediction for who's going to take the final victory royale of the day?
I think it's going to be Tayson. I mean, it's looking so likely that they'll just cruise through by consistency. I think they'll just do it for just to make my prediction wrong in the fact that I thought that they would be our best consistency team. I mean, they're playing well. They've got a lot of favorable zones this time as well in this session. It seems like a lot of the zones are pulling towards the south. I think the most north zone we had was in game 1 by the bridge, but it seems like they're having a lot of success right now. So let's see if they can keep it going.
Let's see as we head over to our casters for game number 5. So Takata and the best Techo, take it away.
Thanks so much, Frankie, Levin, and Mini Miner. But we are down to our final lobby of the first group stage here at Takata. And for a lot of these teams, better late than never as far as that Victor Royale is concerned.
Yeah, this is where you gotta lock in, Taco. The cutoff right now is 128 points, which, you know, is gonna be very difficult for the trios that are kind of on the lower end of that leaderboard. But on the contrary, the ones that are very close to that, you know, can have to decide how they want to play this out. And we don't have to wait long. The engine started. Let's get into this last match of Group 1.
And look, I know that it can be very easy, Takata, for a lot of these teams. You know, mentally, you're coming down to your final lobby. You're still trying to see if you can find that position, at least in the top 5 for consistency. But this last Victor Royale, it really could be anyone's game just based off of what we've seen so far today.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Kenti here, they are literally 6th place. So, like, basically looking at the leaderboard, not counting the trios that have already gotten the Victory Royale, they're 1 placement off being in that qualifying range through consistency. 4 points away. So everything is on the line for these types of trios that are so close to that consistency cutoff. Clone, Gramsu, and Kais, on the other hand, are gonna need quite a match here to make something happen.
Hard, though, not to root for both of these teams hanging out inside of Seaport City. Granted, only one of them is going to be able to walk away completely unscathed. And for the case of Hammer 30J, they already got pretty deep into the action. 2 eliminations on H30J, 1 on Fian as well. And they are just so far south of the map here, Takata. It has to have been an unsuspected con.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't been contested from what I've seen, you know, based on the drop maps in today, but it looks like in this last match, you know, trios are kind of getting a little desperate to try and make something happen if they haven't had too much success in their drops and rotates. So changing drop spots is one of the common kind of choices that these trios do end up making, especially when more places open up. Masked Meadows being one of those. This is where Cringe, Mappy, and Cade were originally dropping, and now Teeny, H-Riss, and Skavi have uncontested Masked Meadows, so that is not bad at all to close this one off.
It looked like they weren't the only ones that had the idea, though, to try and make their way towards Max Meadows. Could be some trouble brewing on the horizon. Enix Suns and Nasix, though, they've already got 1 trio elimination, but they don't even have a chance to look for an opportunity for heals. Tahi closing the gap just too quickly, and Brio gonna ensure that that first elimination gets confirmed. TP for the time being, gonna keep Enix's teammates safe, but Tahi is running Nasix down.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if the chase would happen, but it's definitely going down as Nasix is gonna get knocked. Just 1 player left now in the trio. Where are they hiding? What are they gonna do? It's not a position that you want to put yourself into.
The problem now, though, for Panda's team is that Rio, he was so happy to try and chase down Tahi, and instead chased him all the way into the clutches of another team entirely. UX trio hoping to see if they can maybe scavenge some leftovers from the action that was taking place, and the fact that they were able to collect 1 elimination, that gives them the heads up that there could be more for them to grab.
And in the meantime, we got Pixie here inside of a tree on a branch from that Typhoon Blade. Little sneaky play as he's gonna not do that for too long. Now probably recuperate the shield that has already been lost. as Raban is going to be full pushing in, and quickly enough, Axe Force connecting that pump shotgun shot to take Pixie down.
Duckling, last seen inside of that surge base, but abandoned immediately once they saw their teammate get eliminated here. Is F9 and Axe Force doing a pretty decent job at staking out turf claims on the mountain range, spanning away from brutal boxcars. A lot of these teams, though, Takata, if they can't find those early eliminations as far as surge damage is concerned, we have caught glimpses of Pixie, Vanya, and Marius struggling a little bit with their surge today.
Yeah, I'm concerned for this trio, honestly. 23rd place, 60 points on the board. Like I mentioned earlier, they're gonna need 128 points to qualify through consistency, more than doubling their points. So they're gonna be looking for the victory royale, but if any trio in the lobby is gonna get that victory royale here, I would put my odds in their favor. They had so many eliminations in the last game, but it just went wrong on their rotation. So hopefully this time around they can kind of make something happen.
Just so far away from the rest of the lobby, it seems like. I'll have to check back in to see how it works out for them. Finn, though, above Fishy, but that's a beefy pump shot that Finn just ate, losing shields entirely. It's gonna force him to fall back a little bit here, and Topgo will waste no time with taking over the high ground at this Shogun Solitude position.
Yep, shots being kind of traded back and forth, shields being used, but no full-on push yet from either trio. Ooh, we gotta be careful over peeking a little bit. Basically, I believe they just kind of want to, you know, do a bit of damage, get some of that early surge, but nothing that's too risky. I mean, the pressure is on in this last match. It's not like previous season, you know, what used to be called semifinals, where if you didn't do well in group 1, you'd go down to group 2. But now in these group stages of this year, your only chance is this group set lobby, and then all you have left is the last chance qualifier if you're unable to make it here. But it's way more difficult than you would imagine, as Ziandi now is potentially going to sneak up on one of these trios.
This could be a menacing setup as well. Ju and Shark have left Ziandi to be the primary member from their trio to kind of put some pressure onto these teams inside of Shogun Solitude, but they're also positioned in a way where anyone that tries to escape is going to run directly into Shark and Ju, so they've got a really strong cut-off section. Topgo trying to just get mats, instead eats a pump straight to the dome. Andy finding such a quick elimination there as well. It just puts his team in an excellent position to continue to capitalize on finding even more Noxer eliminations inside of Shoguns.
Andy's not done yet, though. Oni Mask used to pick up yet another elimination. You could have picked any tree, you could have picked any wall, brick, but you picked the one that as a player crouched behind. The perfect lineup. What a way to secure 2 free eliminations.
You know, Henry 30J might have had the right idea with his team, just making sure to depart from that area. Almost like they had that sixth sense tingling that there's something about to go horribly south there. They didn't escape. Moolah, 2T, and make it. And this could be a huge moment right now for Lushi's trio. They need to make sure that they survive this engagement. They were so close heading into this last lobby in order to get their position from consistency. Make it, though. He's not going to be able to survive this most recent exchange. Big pickups coming out of Lushi currently. Only one member left to collect.
Be careful, though. Another trio. They heard the noise, they heard the chaos, and now capitalizing on that situation with the third party. Is it going to be enough of a scare to make Lushi, Moni, and his trio here just disengage completely? They've already gotten a good amount of eliminations. They've already done enough damage. They have Oni masks they can use to rotate, but if enough pressure is put onto them, they might not even have a chance to leave.
Lushi's team just does not have mats. they kind of have to finish this engagement because there could be a decent amount of siphon materials off of 2T, but knowing that Kramsu's team is just right there, smack dab in the center of all this action. Granted, Clone, not exactly the most optimal loadout for fighting.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this one. It's going to be a very difficult fight. The good news is, if one trio does back off here, you know, it kind of minimizes that risk of a third party, but already being so far in zone, having to rotate without the materials, this position in general is just not looking too good.
It's just part of the struggle that Lucy's team knew they were going to encounter, dropping at Shattered Span. There's so many question marks surrounding this POI because it can be very difficult to actually make your way out of it after you initially land. But Mula, Tuti, they're just hoping for an escape currently up against Spain. Kramsu still willing to give chase though alongside Clone and Case. They need this fight more than anything, and they're not gonna let their moment slip between their fingers. Mula still trying to see if he can back up just a little bit further. One more box to create space, but Clone, Case, Kramsu just closing in every second.
Shots connecting back and forth, but nothing hitting strong enough to get that knock, to get that elimination, as now more time is being wasted as the clock ticks. The Storm gets further and further away from these teams. They have to kind of figure something out. Are they going to play aggressive? Are they going to disengage? Because they can't just stay here the whole match, as now the shots continue to come through. Clone, though, is going to get a big shot taken onto him, putting them into a 2 versus 2 once again, is now another shot needing to be connected here if 2T wants to come out on top.
At this stage, though, Takada, this is already looking like a net negative for both teams involved. At the very least, it's pride that you're looking to keep intact here. 2T gonna be able to get some splashes off onto Mula, but still, as you already called, this zone is just getting further and further away from them. 2T will make sure to get the final hit onto Clone, at least make sure that they get the elimination points, but Kaze and Kramsu, what more is there really left for them to do at this point?
Yeah, neither team really came out on top here. I mean, the good news for 2T and Coney is that they were at least able to get an elimination or two there, which is going to secure, you know, a bit of time for them to get back, but they're going to have trouble. So we're going to look back into the zone now. Joe, Trex, or Robin are in an engagement themselves without a single elimination so far this match, and kind of running a bit lower on materials. I mean, Robin looks good, but his team not as much.
Robin probably wishes that they had a Void Oni mask right about now. Makes it much easier to conserve a lot of those mats on these rotates. Chicho, Tayson, though, they managed to find Marius, Venya, and Pixie. And while both of these teams have some really strong fighting potential behind them, I think both teams also know that it might not be worth the risk at this point.
Yeah, I mean, especially seeing that Tayson, Trulix, and Chicho are currently #1 on the consistency leaderboard, even though they took out Trulix and they had that 3 versus 1 advantage. Vanya, Pixie, and Marius are in 23rd. They are not that close to qualifying through consistency. So if they end up taking that fight against the trio that's at the top of the leaderboard, it's gonna be a difficult one to come out on top in.
And that's the problem, because say they do get the clean eliminations, well, Taste and Chicho, they're not ready to let this one go just yet. Spotted out the fact that Marius might be by himself inside of these boxes, both trying to break down the same wall and just put so much pressure up against the likes of Marius. Want to remind them that this is still technically their backyard. So close to Foxy Floodgate. Taste and Chicho, they wanted the card. And now they're going to head back into the Storm and play for the reboot.
Speaking about reboots, is there another potential one coming through from Loki here? There is a van close by, but always a little scared whether or not to use it. If they even have, you know, the reboot card available. As the rotations are going to continue to come through. Kind of see a different change in playstyle being the last match of Group 1. Everything is literally on the line for these players, so Sometimes it can kind of get to your play style and you might play a little bit more scared, but look at this. Relk duckling. They knew it was coming. They knew he wanted the reboot card, and patience was key for this team.
Almost heartbreaking to witness, because now it's going to come down to how many placement points some of these other teams get at the end of it all. Takata, Lushi, and Loki, they were already kind of hovering around that consistency section of the leaderboard, and they might have just been sent straight to the last chance qualifier after that elimination. A tough break, but other teams, still plenty of fighting spirit left to go here. I like the push check.
Yeah, you got to check everything.
You have to at this point.
Especially the last match. You have to check everything. Shogun's Arena has appeared. We'll take a look once again at Teeny, Atris, and Skavi. I mentioned it before, but this trio have, well, they're the only trio in the lobby that have 2 set lobby victory royales in Group 1. So either a Div Cup final or Eval final. They know how to get those victory royales. They haven't been able to do it yet in this first group. And if they want to make something happen, now is the time to do so.
Definitely seemed like a roller coaster of emotions sort of day for Teeny's trio. I like that Teeny was trying to open up his perspective as much as possible, though. Just shooting out trees, trying to prevent other teams from having that little bit of natural safety coverage off the map. Kirawa, Hedra, and Hyper, though, they're also hanging out in their surge base currently, hoping that they could maybe find some good tags or even an elim or 2 from teams that are rotating in from the outskirts of zone. We have seen a good amount of reboot attempts coming through, so maybe there's some of those straggling teams coming in that might be easier to pick off than others.
Just to clarify as well, as you can see, it's 5 through 10 instead of, you know, first, second, third, because the players that did get that victory royale, it's instantly bumping them up the leaderboard. So when I say number 1 on the consistency leaderboard, it's actually going to be number 5 after this match, as now the aggression is going to come through. Chicho Tayson using that Oni mask to TP forwards onto another surge base. They are 186 below. They're in a bit of desperation for some damage here. No need to go fully aggressive yet, but as Storm Surge starts ticking, as they get forced to use more shields, more heals, they have to make riskier plays.
Tayson and Chicho, they know they're trying to make up for lost time. Trulex, though, never really given a chance to recover. Just got rebooted back into the match. Now Tayson gonna dive straight into the box fight, but it is a clear elimination of one of our leading trios as far as consistency is concerned. They're in a pretty set position, though, Takata. I'd imagine that their odds of placing and qualling through off of their points that they've already accrued should be pretty high.
I agree. 212 points currently in first place on the consistency leaderboard, putting them at 5th place on the leaderboard here. So, I mean, they have more than enough. Hopefully now, fingers crossed, they are going to make it through. Time will tell as we continue to finish this match off. 738 above Storm Surge for Sharky's trio here. And they are very close to the storm as well, or to the zone.
We saw how much success Andy had just moments ago in this match. Shark and Jill back him up. Things are getting really chaotic inside some of these lower layers. Signs didn't even know which way to run, getting shot from above and below. But it's gonna be Shark who gets the knock there. One more elimination to add to the tally. Kira's trio trying to do what they can to remain as unscathed as possible through some of these lower layers, but the zone pulling over Whiffy Wharf. It's diabolical what these water zones can do.
It really is. Kira had pre-edits. He just set them up once again. It looks like they're going to look for it. A triple shotgun spray into the pre-edit. Is it going to be successful? They're able to connect a few shots, able to get one knock at least. None of their trio has gone down yet. Now it's all about securing that player, securing the loot, making sure that no other trios try and come on in, but they got to be careful as the shots come from the back end. Kirawa is going to go down, left as a duo now. The third party has ended this aggression.
For a moment, you would hope that double revive could be an option, but Goboda is going to shut that one down immediately. It's going to be the first elimination for his team as well. Hyper and Kira, though, aka Hydra, still trying to hold down front side, but they know they've got another trio that's much better looking than them as far as resources is concerned. But they might not clash head-on just yet. Cranky seems like he wants this fight, though.
I mean, 302 above, not in zone yet. Maybe it's just a bit of loot they're looking for, but right now I'd be focusing on the rotation, trying to plan out what's the play, what's the next step here, so we can take a look at how this third party kind of came through.
That just kind of writes itself sometimes. You have your attention diverted elsewhere, and another team just rolls up on you. Venya, Marius, and Pixie, though, they're hoping to be some of our leading contenders here in this final lobby. They kind of need this, Takata.
They do.
They're playing it way too close for comfort otherwise.
They really do. Middle end of the leaderboard here. I don't even know if a top 6 would be enough. They're looking for the victory royale. They need to make it far into this late game, as they were looking to potentially, I was going to say chop down some builds, but I think they have. Yeah, this high ground secured. There's no point in chopping it down, as they just need to get some damage, but be careful as shots are coming from the far 141 below still. They need to find something.
This isn't exactly how they pictured trying to hold on to height when you are just in that somewhat desperate position to try and get above that surge damage threshold. Other teams are bound to recognize the fact that Marius, Pixie, Vanya, they're just not letting up. Only a couple more tags is what is needed, but Vanya just still can't manage to connect. Few splashes left in the tank, though. It's Kvi. Similar circumstances as well for Teeny's trio.
Oh no, both of these trios are a little ways away, the consistency qualification. They want a victory royale in this last match, but Skavi has already lost Teeny, Haris, and Skavi looking to play this out as a duo. Just 26 damage above, forced to start the rotate with the Oni masks. Just one shot is all it's going to take out Skavi, though. Not even grouped up with his duo. Basically 2 solos playing it out.
It just would take a miracle at this stage for Hatris and Skavi to close this one out. Takata, I believe that we are watching the beginning of the end potentially for Teeny's trio, but we're not gonna let, you know, those hopes escape. Every single one of these other teams competing here currently. Hatris still trying to see if he can find an opening. 47 above, so they'll at least have a couple seconds to think for where they want to move next. Hatris opting to actually rotate a little bit closer towards edge. Probably going to look to try and play the backside of zone even. They might even just look for a chop on height, just because why not? If Marius doesn't take him out first.
It's got to be careful. I see a vision here, Taco. It's possible. Atris doing what he can to at least get in zone, has a bit of materials to work with. All it's going to take is a refresh, a pick, any type of elimination to kind of put himself back into the game. As on the other end, Vanya, Pixie, Marius looking a lot healthier, in a potential position to get the VR this match, but there's still 37 players standing in their way, and the trio up above, it's Henry, Finn, Malds. They're looking to close it out.
Robot most definitely just eliminated Atris there. A little bit further from the viewpoint that we had from Vanya, but Ziandi, Shark, Jew, this is a team that's looked relatively healthy all throughout the course of this final lobby. They might even look for an opportunity to try and take the high ground. Pixie gonna be the first one, though, to try and find the chop, and immediately, as soon as the chop is confirmed, Pixie cranking upwards.
This is what they need. This could be it for Vanya, Pixie, and Marius. The perfect time now to take the high ground. All they have to do is hold on. They have to make sure they apply pressure to any other trio that's looking to take it from them, and that trio is going to be Haijo, Robin, Trexer. The battle for height begins.
Venya definitely a little bit beat up at this stage, but Pixie, same can be said for him. In fact, he's gonna get knocked here entirely. Venya's still trying to hold down the high ground, but he loses Pixie in the process. So many splashes, but that's gonna eliminate the option for a heal off here. Is Venya trying to reconvene to the front side of next round.
It looks like they're going for all or nothing. It was a disengage to lower mid, or just play it for the high ground retake, as Trixer is going to take down Kenty. That's another elimination on the board for Robin and Hijo's trio, as now they continue to hold on strong in the clouds, tarping forwards.
A full trio is always going to have the best odds when it comes to holding height. Robin doing such a great job now at just spraying to suppress these other layers. Henry 30J caught up in the crossfire even, but Robin, Trexer, Hijo, they are setting themselves up for success. Venya may be hoping for a little bit of revenge here, but just stuck inside of the secondary height layer instead.
Gotta be careful. Vanya has made the second height tarp that has been connected to by Hijo, as now they're gonna go ahead of zone. Are they gonna look back? Are they gonna look above? Is this what they truly want? We've seen their eyes on height. They know they need this victory royale. It's all or nothing for this duo. Marius and Vanya won it.
Robin and Trexer, though, just continuing to provide as much cover backup to secure this high ground as possible. F9 will get knocked. Robin gonna drop even just to get the resources, just to get that siphon off the elimination, and finds more catastrophe down below. Robob gonna be next to fall. Robin just in such a pivotal moment for success here. And Vanya still trying to see if he can get a slight chop going, but he might have just drawn the attention of Robin instead.
The time is now. It's 2 versus 3 up above. All they have to do is go for it and close it out, as Trexer's gonna drop down. This could be the opportunity for Marius and Vanya. Can they take height as Trexer gets knocked down? Putting them back into a 2 versus 2. It's just Hijo and Robin up top. Can they continue scaling up?
But everybody seems to have forgotten about Shark and Ju from the low ground. They might be one of the only trios actually left intact. In fact, it is the Andy now gonna take over the high ground. He's gonna be the one suppressing fire onto these low tier layers. Shark causing so much calamity inside the mid ground as well. They've got every single section choked off here to ensure that they can be the ones controlling zone.
And it looks like one more shot is just needed to connect onto Marius to close this one out. Can they connect it? It looks like they've done it. Shark, Z-Andy, and Ju are gonna be our last trio to qualify through the victory royale. But Taco, there's still 5 more spots to be granted on that consistency leaderboard.
The consistency is a key. That's going to be the reoccurring theme here for today, Takata. But for a lot of these teams hovering towards that 5th through 10th section of the leaderboard, that's got to be such a beautiful sight to witness, because Shark, Ju, and Z-Andy, keep in mind, they were in that around 8th place position heading into this lobby. So the fact that they've won now means one more position down lower could potentially scoop up that placement that they needed.
Yeah, I'm thinking right now, not only have they just secured the golden ticket, congratulations to Ju, Z-Andy, and Shark, but what's on my mind, Taco, Vanya, Pixie, and Marius were in 23rd place going into this match. They were able to clutch up a lot of points as a duo, but is it going to be enough? We can see here, Z-Andy, Shark, and Ju are taking that last Victory Royale golden ticket. But Taco, what do you think? Are Vanya and his trio gonna have enough points to qualify to the major finals?
Look, I'm as excited as the next person, Takata, to see exactly how the leaderboard actually ended up shaking up, because it's not just Vanya's trio that needed those crucial points at the last minute. But Takata, it's been a pleasure commentating this first group stage, and now we got to see what the desk has to say for how everything ended up.
Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you back here next Saturday. Taco, welcome once more to Europe. It's good to have you back. But obviously, if you're missing Jacob, don't worry. You'll hear him later on in the Americans zone, because Zeke stole him. And that's fine. We're not bitter about it at all. We love you, Jacob. Now, let's talk about what went down in that last game, because it feels like Andy's probably broken the heart of Vanyak, because we kind of had the belief for a moment there, Levin, that Vanyak was going to slow-low clutch it for his team.
I mean, in that moment, Vanya and Marius were doing so well as a duo, right? And you hold on to that hope. Then out of nowhere, Shark, Ju, Z-Andy are up on high, and they're the only trio left in the lobby. And it's been such a crazy 3-game swing for them, Mini. They started off the day poorly, not up to standard, not up to scratch. They were a team who at the start of this season, way before the FNCS kicked off, were looking really strong. We're looking like a team that's sort of up next, has all the potential. Shark and Drew have been getting so much hype for just how talented they are. And then they have a third, then they had a 7th place, right, which helps them. They get a 3rd, then they get a 5th, and now the win. Unreal. Like the caster said, they were a team that was in the consistency places, so this helps everybody else in the lobby, but it's nice to see them pick up the pace in the last 3 games here.
Yeah, they just seem to keep going when other teams were just really battling it out for high. It was now or never for so many teams. And for them, I think it actually benefited them that they were actually up on the standings at that point. They didn't have to just go for height like crazy. They didn't have to try and go on the mess that was up there. They were actually quite consistent. They were quite happy to stay on those mid-ground layers and then go for height when it makes sense. And that's exactly what they did. They took it really well. And the way they closed out the game was nice and easy for them as well, because everyone else was a solo or a duo. So it's nice to see this team doing well. It's nice to see them in those grand finals.
Well, Zia, Andy, Shark and Dew, they've moved themselves off the consistency leaderboard and onto the Victory Royale one. So let's see our 5 trios who booked their spot in the grand finals of Major 1 via a Victory Royale. It seems like ages ago that this first trio took us all by surprise. Joe Run's trio, Levin, just came out of nowhere to book that ticket.
Yeah, Vamos España. Great start to the day for the Spanish community. Takata was loving it. I'm sure Suha was somewhere loving it as well. Spanish on top. It was lovely to see them get that win, and it was a bit of a surprise, right? You know, you want to give them their flowers. Of course, they've done well. It's going to be good to see them in the grand finals, but a lot of people probably weren't expecting them to be that first team to come out. The second team, though, was the one everybody was expecting to see. The one everybody knew was going to get a win in this lobby. I dropped Sky and Scroll. Looked incredible in the 2 games we saw them in, and can't wait to see what these guys do in grands now.
Yeah, I mean, they're a team that I want to see more from. I was kind of sad that they went through in game 2, right? They're a team that's so exciting to watch, so promising here going into the finals, and they're a team that I'm going to have a big question marks over when it does come to that time, and I really want to see if they can actually do it on the big stage like we've seen with iDrop previously. He's had these just amazing qualification periods. He's had these amazing group stages of the past, but just hasn't quite been able to deliver on the big stage of finals, so excited to see what that team can do.
Are you surprised that most of our Victory Royales were taken, though, by teams that we fully expected to otherwise qualify from the consistency leaderboard, Levin?
Not really. It's just a byproduct of, like, if you're consistently in the end games, you're going to be in positions to win games, right? It's just about finding that win condition, you know, joining the dots. So, you know, no surprises there. I think in terms of all of the groups, like, this was probably the most predictable one. Like, going into it, a lot of people felt like we knew which teams were going to make it. And for the most part, even though I think there's definitely probably going to be some big upsets, you know, a lot of the guys there were teams that people, I think, expected to win games or at least go through on consistency.
Yeah. Let's take a look at our consistency leaderboard and see the other 5 trios who booked their spot in the Major 1 Grand Finals. And you can see Taze and Trulux and Chicho, they had not a great Game 5 mini-minor, but they'd already done enough by this point. They'd gone so close to getting a Victory Royale, and it's no surprise we're seeing them in the finals.
Yeah, they could chill. They could relax. I think they'd done all the hard work previously. I think it was only the 11th that they had outside of the top 10 in the 4 games prior. So they were just so consistent, doing it exactly as we expected, I should say, in terms of the way that they were going to play it. Surge bases, they were looking pretty strong. They were playing that center of the map. As I said, they did get a few lucky zones in terms of their positioning, but yeah, they could have played from their living room for that last game. It didn't really matter. But nice to see some other big names on there as well. Roban, of course, Force and Fanayan up there as well, another big name. And Robin, Trexer, and Hyjo, big clutch from those guys in the last game. I'm not even sure if they would have actually qualified if it wasn't for that last game. So nice to see those guys in there as well.
Yeah, top-notch stuff from them. And you know, from the other 2 teams there who have made now their first grand finals, UX Trio, that's the first grand finals appearance for all of those guys. And for Vanjaki's trio, right, with Pixovsky, again, a big shout out to Pixovsky, right, because he has been known as like the console GOAT for so long, has made the transition over to playing on PC and now makes their first grand finals as well. The come up has been crazy. Really big congrats to all those guys playing in their first FNCS grands.
Yeah, it's wicked to see some new names names rising to the top, or I should say lesser-known names rising to the top and showing what they can do this early into Chapter 6's competitive season. Let's take a look at the full leaderboard, though, because unfortunately, there are some notable names who didn't quite make the cut this time round and will be hoping to get a spot in the last chance qualifier. So if we move onto page number 2, I mean, we've got to really look at number 14. Vanyak is a big surprise for me personally, Mini Miner. We saw him try to get to his comfort zone, the high ground, in that last game, but it was just a little bit too late.
Yeah, to be honest, I think they just haven't been in their comfort zone all day. It's been a very uncharacteristic day for them. I particularly expect them to win a game. We spoke about how Vanyak has the best record in this sort of format. He had a 20% win rate going into this day today in terms of these sort of victory reboot round style games. And I thought this was really going to be the time for them just to show us that they were just leaving it right until the last game and just having extra practice. But unfortunately, Levin, we saw Pixie going down here early on in that end game, and it was all down to Vanya and Marius, who did very well, of course, but when you're a duo, it's so difficult.
You don't sound too calm to me. And I know FNCS isn't done. We still have the last chance qualifier. Those 3 games, if you're able to qualify to get to those 3 games, you know, it's still a possibility. But look at the names we're seeing not potentially making grand finals of the first major. Vanya, Pixie, Marius. Vanya literally won a major last year. This is somebody who is an FNCS winning quality player. Pixie has had a massive come up. We saw him trialing out with guys like Queasy and Venom, some of the best players in the region. The talent is there. Marius was TikTok's best player in the world last year, right? Like, these are massive names. On top of that, the likes of Haris Skivvy, Teeny, Haris and Skivvy established themselves as grand finals players in EU last year, coming into trios, big struggles now. And Teeny, he just had a year where he's come 2nd in 2 majors and then 6th on globals. Like, to go from that to potentially now missing the first grand finals of Major 1 in 2025, this is getting near catastrophic. Of course, there is still that last chance qualifier for these guys to try, but you know, that's going to be 3 games. They struggle to win a game here. Like, that's going to be even more pressure on them. FNCS is brutal.
I'm pretty sure it can get more brutal, though, because these players, they can change their trio if they want before the last chance qualifier. And that breaks my heart, and I'm slightly concerned. And if you are one of these big players who's expected to make a grand final, Levin, are you looking elsewhere?
I mean, I think it's only a given, right? Like, especially when you look at those 2 trios. Those are 2 trios that are actually an example of trios who have tried to, like, switch up and do different things, right? They already tried dropping Marius to play a chat. You know, Teeny, Harris, and Skivvy ended up in this situation because of a bunch of different changes that was going on as well. So, the difficulty here, Mini, right, is that who do you play with? Now a lot of the best players are just going to be qualified through to the grand finals anyway, right? Your options start to get a bit weird here, so we'll see what these guys do.
Yeah, you can't really be too picky now at this point. I think you're a top tier 1 player that's trying to make it into the grand finals via the last chance. I think you just have to sort of throw all of like the sort of strategy that you want to try and employ, the play style you want to try and go for out of the window. You just have to think like, right, who's available? Who can actually pick up that's the best player? Because we've seen it today, although they haven't necessarily had their best season, the best performances, we've had some of our best names, biggest names qualifying through, doing well, managing to do well in these sort of lobbies. And of course, last chance is not going to be as high caliber lobby as these guys maybe are used to. So it might just be a case of let's just put 3 of the best players in the lobby in terms of ability together and hope that we can get a victory royale.
Guys, this is already so dramatic, and it's literally just Group 1. We've got Groups 2 and 3 coming up next Saturday and Sunday, followed by our grand final the following weekend. So mark that down in your calendars. I know you've probably all got one of those old-fashioned desk planners, right? No, Levin?
Definitely not.
It's
don't
fine.
use a pen, to be honest.
To be fair, if you saw my handwriting, neither do I. Thank you, everyone, for watching at home. Please do stay tuned because North America is coming up soon, and I know you're not going to want to miss a single moment. So we will see you next week. The guys on Zeke's analyst desk will see you in a couple of hours. And for now, guys, we're running it back. We're bringing it back for 2025. Sound that horn.